Good evening to the few people who are streaming in as we get in here. This is going to be Counterfire episode 01. Last one was the inaugural 00. We're still working through the kinks, but of course we're here to have fun. And, you know, the premise of the show, for those of you who have not checked out the original stuff or are familiar with Brianna Wu or myself, is that Brianna Wu is progressive. I identify as Burkean conservative, also have right-wing sympathies, etc., etc. We wanted to take down the news topics du jour in a way where we were able to both express our opinions and kind of bring a little bit of sanity back to modern politics. We do have an interesting show for you tonight. We're going to be talking about the Boston mayoral dinner. We're going to be talking about some of the LoliCon drama, both with Twitch recently, but also in a drama from a few weeks ago, and then also potentially the Republican debates and Hunter Avallone as well. But without further ado, Brianna, can you introduce yourself to the folks at home?
Yeah, my name is Brianna Wu. I'm a filthy progressive. Yeah, but I'm not a crazy progressive. I'm a capitalist. I believe in things like the rule of law. I think serious claims against individuals should be looked into before getting judgments. So, you know, it's kind of my mission with this show to back us away from the brink of insanity. I think there's something that's happened with the left where, like, at least if you're on Twitter, the IQ of my entire side seems to have dropped by 20 points. So I'm looking to turn that around a little bit.
Well, that even brings a topic that I'll go ahead and add to the list, the Christian conservative beheading of Baphomet in the state capitol. I forget which one, but there was a Satanist display that a Christian conservative beheaded.
Yes.
Yeah, so we can add in the separation of church and state and conservative Christian conservatism. So yeah, but let's get into the first one, I guess. So you actually had an interesting Twitter take that I obviously disagreed with. Do you want to explain your rationale for the Boston mayoral, or actually this is close to you as well?
Let me give everybody like a background on this, and then I'll kind of give you my take on it. So Michelle Wu, who is the mayor of Boston, is in a national scandal right now because there was an elected people of color party that went out. The invitation accidentally went to some people that were really upset about the fact that they were white. They were not being invited to this party, and is turned into a sort of national reverse racism scandal, right? So from my point of view, please understand, I live here in Boston. I will fully admit, I wouldn't call Michelle Wu a friend, but she's someone I ran into a lot when I was running for Congress. And I got to tell you, Connor, I'm not going to bullshit you and tell you I liked every single Democrat I ran into. I didn't. I liked maybe 10% of them and thought they were decent people. But I did like Michelle. She's goddamn smart. She understands policy. She's good at making friends, and just like a really... like there's a kind of woman elected leader who's like this technocrat who's really a policy nerd, and that's Michelle Wu. And I like people like that. So, you know, obviously with her kind of being in the shit on this, you know, I support her because I do see like the lasting legacy of racism here in Boston. I've been to a million Democratic events. It's just all white people just being flat out. So it makes a lot of sense to me why elected officials in Boston might want to have a party where they can connect and network and decide on some legislation to help their communities. Does that kind of make sense to you?
Yeah, it's fine, and I can steel man it, but that's not why people are here, right? They want to see me actually, you know, object for a reason. So what I would say,
if you don't agree, just say so. Yeah.
So I'll steelman the criticism, which I think that it plays into a lot of the broader culture war narratives. It plays into immigration narratives. It plays into all this kind of stuff. So I think that when it came to 1990s liberalism, I was born in the late 80s. We had a Captain Planet perspective of race relations, that we're actually all the same and we should all have one representative in order to join the team, but when we come together we can all succeed, etc., etc. And what happened, I would say, probably in the past 10 years is that I feel like leftists have said that equality of opportunity or equality is not enough. We need equity. And so
Yeah.
when it comes to equity, we have to put our fingers on the scales for racial minorities and sexual minorities and all that kind of stuff in order to leverage what power we don't have from an equality of opportunity perspective to actually bring us in line with equitable power differences. As a white straight man, there's obviously I love the liberal perspective more, and also I want to say skill issue, get better. So like, but that's the thing is liberalism requires the universality of rules. And this doesn't feel universal, because if there was a whites and honorary whites elected representative thing, I know it's Boston, but if you did that in Texas, they would have a greater claim to be able to do something like that.
Yeah. No, I think it's bad political messaging, right? I think it's tone deaf, it's dated, it's a time bomb waiting to happen. And you could have the same kind of party and with the same kind of political value of getting people that care about communities of color together and just call it something else, like the Allies and Leadership Party. Or do you know what I mean? Like you could. It just needs to be retitled. The objective is fine.
Forget to invite all the white people based. So,
well, to me, as a matter of fact, there are plenty of Italians that got invited to this. So,
okay, so there was some representation there. Yeah, you couldn't call the Italians white or else they get offended. And Boston is like a wildly different political animal from the rest of the country. Ethnicity still matters up in the Northeast somewhat, whereas I would say the rest of the country doesn't. And I know you kind of already extended me an olive branch, but I just want to logically extend this to its furthest extreme. So let's say a lot of people have been cheering on immigration, the changing demography of the country. We have Biden making statements about this. We have other Democrat established folks saying that this is a good thing, et cetera, et cetera. So what's probably going to happen, I would say, in the next 50 to 80 years is that while, based off of birth rates, Northern European Americans are going to remain a major power block, they will ultimately become a plurality, not a majority. And so if they're going to have to build different power structures, especially if demographics continue the way that they are. But 30 years from now, are we going to...
jump in on that really super quickly? The Democratic Party is failing so hard right now to reach out to Latinos. If you look at Trump's numbers with black people, he is never... There's never been a Republican more popular with black voters than Trump. So I actually think the Democrats are screwing up our outreach to communities of color right now. I'm not sure that's so true. But that's a whole nother discussion.
Well, yeah, but let's just let's run it hypothetically, and I'm with you because honestly, I wish I could like wrangle Republicans by the ears and say Hispanic conservatives and black conservatives are not your enemies just because disproportionately they vote Democrat. If you ran outreach to them, if you like made them understand that you care about them as fellow Americans, then you would have brand new demographic blocks to cater to when it comes to Republican outreach. But it seems like it's going to require a changing of the guard, basically. That's what it's going to take.
But I mean, look, just to add on to that, on my side, if my side could just wake up and understand that talking about like open borders is the most brain dead, stupid thing you could possibly say. I've been looking for this story. Do you remember this? Am I losing my mind? There was a story I remember towards the end of the Bush administration about us catching the border security people catching a radiological material, a dirty bomb, basically being smuggled into the United States across the border. And we caught that because of basically radiological detection. That could have been especially in that moment, that could have been horrible, right? If you're out there talking about open border policy and people coming in and out, Jesus Christ, Connor, I start thinking about all the union people I know that I met, and they're like, they're thinking so hard about wanting to like shore up union power so they have like some like push back on the corporations. You're talking about flooding cheap labor into the country with no rules whatsoever. You're talking about drugs. You're talking about sex trafficking. You're talking about all this stuff. It's like, are y'all out of your mind? Normal people hear this and they're like, you're crazy. You're crazy, and I'm not voting for that. So like, there's like, this is not like my side's hands are clean on this, you know?
Well, so let's. I think we could muse politically on the ways that both parties are failing their outreach and messaging and all that kind of stuff. We could absolutely do that and shop it, and we will. But I just wanted to say, let's say that in a plurality circumstance, and let's say that race and ethnicity still matter, 50 years from now in the ways that they do now. Like, would it be acceptable to have a white people and people of fair complexion conference, the WIPFOC, where they get together in order to say, hey, how do we get, melanin deficient people together in order to advocate for our interests? And I think the obvious answer is no. Most people are not going to support that because these people are disproportionately privileged, et cetera, et cetera. So then that's where the liberal equality of opportunity becomes a sledgehammer to smash the mayor of Boston.
Well, the future is this generation is so addicted to their phones, they'll never go outside. So everyone will have no melanin eventually. So we will all be
based. Yes. When everybody's white, nobody is. Fantastic.
We'll be
Yeah.
mole people.
Yeah.
No, you're not wrong. But to give you another thought experiment right back at you. There is a veterans hall here in Dedham. My tax dollars pay for it, I assume. It's right next to the baseball field. There's this badass tank in front of it. And there are veterans only events there, right? I would feel like the biggest asshole on earth if I busted up in there and I'm like, come on, this is my party, y'all. Like, why are you excluding me, right?
Yeah, let's do as long as you buy shots, they'll be okay.
Okay, that's fair enough. Isn't it okay for people to have spaces that are just their own? I mean, I think this is fine.
Okay, sure. And then the reason why I don't care is because, again, I think that like Boston is its own animal. But then I guess my question to you is, how does this extend nationally? So for instance, like I'm willing to concede that Boston ethnicity still matters. Like you said, the Italians were invited. Like that's how, ethnically segregated, the Northeast can sometimes be. Whereas I think in Texas or Arizona, this wouldn't necessarily make sense. So would you say that like update the name, keep the vibes, explain that it's not about white exclusion, then if white people and people of fair complexion do a shitpost about a different party, don't freak out about it? Like, what's your prescription, I guess?
I think it's obviously a mistake. I just think I think there's a way to just address the problem and build a coalition of people that is less of a risk for blowing up on everyone's face and frankly pissing off white voters, which is the majority of Boston, like hugely. And just as a note, just in case your listeners don't know, I grew up in Mississippi, so it's like out of one racist frying pan and into the other here in Boston. Like, it's crazy. Mississippi is so much less segregated than Boston. It blows my mind. So like, have people there that are serious about, oh my God, dude, there was a story that came out in the Globe a couple of years ago that showed that the average like total wealth, including car, stocks, house, everything, of a person in Boston was $27. Like, it is just a very real difference of outcome between white people and black people in Massachusetts. It's just a fact. We are failing at this. So I don't think it's crazy to have people together to ask how to help that community, but maybe do it in a way that brings in your white allies to actually show up and care about the problem too.
Well, I think, kind of digging into this just a little bit, and I understand that we might be starting to beat a dead horse a little bit, but I think they're part of the reason the offense that white people and people of fair complexion take, I am now representing that caucus, is that like not all minorities are created equal, right? So Asians disproportionately wealthy inside the United States, Jews disproportionately wealthy inside the United States, and then also like Nigerians, like Nigerian immigrants don't have the same concerns as black immigrants, right? Like
That's right.
American black. So what you effectively have is you have like Asians, Jews, recent wealthy educated immigrants being treated as like a people of color block,
Hmm.
where they actually don't necessarily share aligned interest. And so that's where it becomes like, well, do you guys share interest because we actually are in an antagonistic racial struggle or ethnic struggle? Or is this actually about you guys share challenges in a white dominated space, right?
You know what, Connor? That's really insightful because I'm thinking about one of the things that's changed over my lifetime is everything is so much more like the classes we had for people back even in the 90s or even the nils, we're so much like the internet allows so much more fine granularities of culture to come out. Like, look how many substrains there are of just the trans community, right? You've got like 20 warring factions at this point. So yeah, maybe it's like maybe you're right, maybe this is kind of a primitive way to look at it because I'm thinking through this because it's like educated people that are high salary, or to get into it in Boston, we have a huge population of people we bring in from other countries here that are people of color that work at our huge biotech industry that like created the coronavirus vaccine. They have very
I'm
different.
happy you finished that.
Yeah, yes, the
They created the coronavirus vaccine.
vaccine.
Well, hold on.
It's
So
true. Yeah,
there's a okay. So here's the thing. This is where I'll sympathize with
sure.
the elected members of color conference or whatever. Is that I'm sure that white progressives can be annoying. And so you have that. There's a character from Wakanda. It's the same character from Get Out, who's like
Yep.
the annoyingly progressive white person who talks about like traveling to the motherland and getting in contact with their roots and have you ever been and all that kind of stuff. And so like I get like wanting to get away from those people. I totally get it. But then I think that it's the cure is worse than the disease, because I think that particularly as dissident online people like emphasize like ethnic and racial struggle, and they say, oh, look at what the progressives are doing, they're being racist, but because they're a different color nobody cares, why can't we do the same thing? Some people are I've called it the whip fox so far, the white people and people of fair complexion. The whip fox can start as a joke but then devolve into like really antagonistic, gross politics.
Yeah.
So that's where I land is the cure is worse than the disease.
I do think it's important context that this particular party started a decade ago. This wasn't Michelle Wu's idea. This started under our two, as I understand it, our two previous white Boston mayors, right? Where it was kind of like, well, y'all can go have your party right here, but we've got the power. I think it's interpreted very, very differently when, you know, a woman of color has the power. So you know, like I said, it's just pragmatically, it's a time bomb waiting to happen. I know you don't live in Boston, so you don't understand the nut jobs that are obsessed with Michelle Wu and protesting outside her house and blaming coronavirus on her and just all this other crazy stuff. Like the number of people obsessed with her is truly disturbing. But yeah, I think it's just bad messaging, and I have no doubt they'll change course on that.
Okay, then I feel like do you have any saved rounds on this one, or are you ready to move to the next one?
And just one more quick thing, you know, with
Sure.
Michelle Wu, just like I understand most people out there don't know her like I do, but you know, I have donated, Connor, I've donated so much money to politicians. I have as part of my job. And I talk to them on the phone and I ask them questions every single time. And hands down, by far, the person that had the best answers to technical questions about issues that I wanted answers to is Michelle Wu, like by a very, very, very wide margin. And I've had the same conversations with members of the House and elected senators and people that are very, very powerful in this country. So I guess I'd say to anyone offended by this, if I sound like someone whose judgment you might want to lean on, it is my honest assessment Michelle deserves a little bit more of a break than people are giving her, and maybe give her a little bit of the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and I love my fair share of technocrats. We talked about that last episode where, you know, we were talking about the people who were involved in the January 6 hearings and the other hearings and all that kind of stuff, where there's a lot of really passionate, technically competent people who don't always communicate the best, but you can tell are very well intended and care about their jobs and care about their communities and all that kind of stuff. So if that's your exterior impression, then I will stop making racist jokes on Twitter. So the next topic.
I just joke about something. I'm so upset that she's in so many scandals, because if I end up running for office again in Boston, people are going to think I'm her because we have the same last name.
Nice.
So all of her scandals are going to wear off on me.
Lean into it.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah, lean into it. Like when Elizabeth Warren got accused of having like a Marine S&M consort that she would fly out to political events to do various aggressive personal things, and she was just like, yeah, whatever. And like, so I would just say lean into it.
You're thinking of the Senate. You're thinking of the Senate. You're thinking of that room in the Senate. Yes.
Okay. Well,
you saw this scandal, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
The one that I'm talking about is there was a former Marine who said that he was a gigolo for Elizabeth Warren and would follow her around the country. And it went temporarily viral online, but Elizabeth Warren leaned into it as a joke, and so it died within 24 hours.
I missed this. That's hilarious. Oh my God. Yeah. Elizabeth Warren is like this tall in person. It's hilarious. She's this tiny, tiny person. So no, I'm talking about the scandal that just happened today about the gay sex being recorded in the Senate. Have you seen this?
No.
Yeah, you may not want to. Me. Yeah, that's all it is. Some interns got busted recording some stuff. It's pretty funny because you could look at where they're doing it.
Was it intern on intern, or was it elected representative with an intern or something?
All I've seen is the picture of the intern like over the desk on all fours. So there it is. That's all I'll say. Gotta keep it TOS.
Okay. Which brings us into our next subject, which isn't degenerate at all. LoliCon. So the you kind of brought this up. I didn't know if you wanted to do a debate review or if you just wanted to talk about it briefly. But basically, if you don't mind, I'll summarize it just since I was involved. There was a smaller streamer who admitted to consuming LoliCon as a part of their consumptive pornographic habits. This created a dramatic firestorm. Chud Logic came out relatively tepidly saying that, like, you know, I'm not going to associate with this person, but if other people are going to associate with them, I'll give them a little bit of forewarning, but I'm not going to give them any flack about it. And then Queeman, he's enjoying all the attention in the spotlight, but he basically is trying to milk the content as much as he can, trying to drag as much attention to this drama as possible. Chud got upset that I said that he was ambivalent, and the reason why he was ambivalent was because he was trying to avoid making drama frogs angry by taking a strong moral stance. That's my perspective on the situation. Chud and I hashed it out, but what are your takeaways?
Well, I share your assessment of that, you know, of Chud. Excuse me. I'm not trying to get into drama with him, but I thought your commentary was fair. I thought your analysis was really fair. I think the thing I wanted to talk about is the thing that really sparked agreement with me from that conversation is you talking about, frankly, how degenerate this shit is, right? And it is. It's sick shit. And it blows my mind how many people on the left excuse this stuff. It's sick. It is opening up a gateway to a whole lot of just bad impulses. And it just blows my mind that people can't come out and just say, this is obviously child porn light. And you shouldn't be looking at this stuff. It's disgusting, right?
But
Like I don't understand.
well, okay, so I'm gonna get you even into even hotter water now. So Twitch, the popular streaming website that we are also live on right now, they came out with a terms of service because women were streaming with their like 3/4 of their chest shown, and it was implied that they were nude. And this was viewed as the new hot tub meta, where OnlyFans pornographic actresses were trying to gain audiences largely made up of teenage boys by basically streaming naked. And so Twitch banned a few streamers. Then they reversed course. They said that artistic nudity was going to be allowed. And then a bunch of zoophile and LoliCon artists started drawing and showing their favorite pornography on Twitch, and then Twitch immediately reversed course and shut it down.
Yep.
But
By the
I
way,
see-
exactly what Kyla said was going to happen, exactly what Erudite said was going to happen publicly, and it happened immediately. She was completely right on
what, that people exploded the loophole instantaneously and massively took advantage of it?
to put very young images of very young children on Twitch, and she was dead on.
Well, okay, so here's my problem is that I view these things as correlated. I'm a little bit of a sexually repressive person. Not that I didn't have fun when I was younger. So 15 to 25, I was told by broader society, rightly or wrongly, that it's a time of experimentation and messing around and dating different people and exploring what you like and what you don't like and all that kind of stuff. And so as a result, I did date around from 15 to 25. I had a lot of crazy experiences. But then at 25, I was like, this is not making me happy. There's a difference between pleasure and contentment. There's a difference between pleasure and happiness and pleasure and love. So I'm going to kind of go a little bit old school and just start, I'm not going to date anybody else until I find somebody serious. And then I met my wife, we got married, we had kids, we're pretty happy, and all that kind of stuff. We're not perfect by any means, but we're happy. And
There's
so
no marriage that's perfect. Mine's not. Yours isn't. That's marriage.
right. And so the whole point of that diatribe was to say, like, I'm not such a prude that I don't think young people should be engaging in any kind of recreational sexual behavior whatsoever, but I do see the openness of liberals and the advocacy for sex workers by progressives as correlated with some lunatics online being like, well, everything's fair game.
I think that's fair. Like, there's a real tendency on the left that we will advocate for a reasonable position, right? Which is like sex positive feminism. And I have no issue with a woman like being top down doing it for a joke, a troll, basically. I think that's hilarious. But I think that, you should probably have some tools there to make sure, very young children aren't watching that. That makes sense to me. But I think you're right that there's this infinite slide that happens on the left, right? Where it's like, okay, polyamory, okay, that's a private decision, that's fine. Then you go further, to like, and then there's just no place where it stops. So I do agree that's a tendency. Yeah.
Yeah, I literally think that one of my frustrations is that, like, so polyamory or polygamy, I think that, like, statistically I can show, like, oh, polygamous societies, they have XYZ ABC thing, but really we're studying like Iran and Saudi Arabia, and so sociologists are going to be like, well, there's 10,000 other factors, blah blah blah, right?
Sure.
And then when it comes to polyamory too, it's like, I like to reserve state force. I think I've told you my libertarian conception of state force. If I'm going to pass a law and that law is going to be enforced, I have to conceptualize that law being enforced by a law enforcement officer, which means effectively, if I pass a law and I expect it to be enforced, I am comfortable with a uniformed person showing up to your house with a gun to tell you that you cannot do something. So while I will publicly criticize polyamory, I am not comfortable sending an agent of the state with a gun to say, you're not allowed to do that. right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my thing is like, we were talking about the infinite slide. What I would like is a large proportion of the left to come out and say, you know, Wally is degenerate and shitty, pedophilic shit. Like, even if you have that impulse, it's not a sane or rational impulse that we are going to try to sanitize and normalize as a society. And then same thing with like zoophiles, which I do view, no offense to the few furry people in my community, but I do view furries and zoophiles as maybe not causative, but correlated. And yeah, so it's like, so me, because I'm more sympathetic to the right, I can draw firm lines. Whereas with progressives and liberals, they seem incapable of drawing firm lines sometimes.
So this is a meta point, Connor, and I suspect this is why you and I get along. Because for me, I am progressive, right? And my line of where I want to draw it and have someone show up with a gun is probably much deeper than yours. But I am just like, from my upbringing in a military family and growing up conservative, I actually think standards that you hold yourself to are really, really important, right? I think it's okay to like draw those lines. And I think there's a quality on the progressive left that tends to intellectualize every single thing to the point where it just does not make any rational sense and it alienates people. So personally, if somebody is jacking off to child porn, I don't have a problem at all with law enforcement showing up to their house and addressing that. You know,
that is a line that I'm okay with. I was more thinking polyamory and polygamy. I don't want law enforcement showing up in order to enforce like laws against that.
Not.
But
of course not.
When it comes to, you know, I think lolly should be banned, and then consumption, whatever, like, should be enforced. So I'm okay with that. And then the reason being, sorry, go ahead.
Well, how you interpret lolly, I don't know the jurisprudence on that. I don't know how the courts interpret that. But what I am really comfortable with is anyone can look at this stuff and see it's degenerate stuff. And I'm going to say something that may get me in trouble today. The amount of those games with hypersexualized little girls that are available on Switch, the Nintendo Switch, blows my mind. I have no parental controls turned on, and I don't know if like kids can get those, but it blows my mind. You just log on to the e-store to see if like Metroid has come out, and it's like it's the most sick sexualized little girls like right there on a Nintendo product. I don't know who the hell is running that store, but you need to be like thinking about some stuff.
So did we drop too many nuclear bombs on Japan or not enough?
Not commenting on that. I'm staying away. Yeah.
And since I'm not, you know, running for elected office anytime soon, I can meme a little bit harder.
There you go.
But yeah, like I do blame the Japanese.
You, right?
No, of course it does. I do. I legitimately, I do think that there's different parts of Japanese sex culture that have infiltrated the West, and I do think that they have a little bit. They have different takes on prostitution. They have different takes on like the cleanliness and whether or not there should be any shame associated with sex. They actually have a relatively positive like safety when it comes to sexual assault, at least unless I've thought about this a lot actually since being told it. Shame culture and honor culture in Japan is actually pretty strong. So I don't know if sexual assaults or rapes are happening in Japan and they're not getting reported. Or
they do have that car where they had to do women only subway cars there because people are so gropalicious on the train. So you know.
Well, and that's what I was wondering is if they inverted into a different dynamic, because allegedly their sexual assault and rape statistics are substantively less than the United States. I'll put it that way, at least. So I don't know if that's a reporting issue or a cultural issue. So while I can praise that, you know, tentacles, children, monsters, zoophilia, 3,000-year-old vampires that look like children, I think that the Japanese should put a stop to that, and we should as well. So yeah.
I am not going to tell Japan, sorry, I'm dealing with a bit of a cold. I'm not going to tell Japan how they should run their society. I'm American. But I can
Mm.
say that localization is a process that happens in the game industry, and Nintendo needs to think about the product that they're bringing out to like America, right? So,
You're not culturally imperialist. That's interesting. You don't want to export our country internationally. I thought that was the power of liberalism, is that it's a universal philosophy.
That's a fair gotcha. I'll have to think about that.
Okay.
But as far as like the law, it's I'm interested in American law, right? And
Mm.
look, I don't have any issue with like Dead or Alive or these hypersexualized games. Just to return to what you were talking about, kids sing this. Dude, you grew up in the 90s. You remember this stuff. Do you not remember USA, the entire USA channel and the soft porn they had on there constantly? Do you not remember like Cleopatra 2525, which is basically softcore porn on every single day after school, or Baywatch on TV? Like,
Yeah.
this is an old playbook. There's
Well,
a line. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, in some ways, I think it's actually gotten better.
Yeah.
In some ways, where I think the internet, on one hand, we're constantly being reminded of how many degenerates surround us and how many people have degenerate stuff. Which, by the way, I would love for you to define in a moment. But I think it needs be remarked that Britney Spears, I think, was 16 when "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time" came out.
Yeah.
People publicly struggled with how attractive they found her, but ultimately they were able to laugh it off and just be like, "Ah, well, she's hot, so whatever." And that was literally it. But she was 16, so they basically but the parents were okay with that. The studio was okay with that. The suggestive lyrics were okay. Like, it was played on every nationally syndicated radio station as far as the eye can see. He became like a sex icon for a decade. So like, in some ways, I don't think that shit would fly nowadays. I don't think it would.
But don't you remember the Hannah Montana like legal countdown clock? There was like a whole website about this, and there's a rich history of sexualizing young girls in the musical industry and sending their lives wildly off course, right? Like, I'm a big Kylie Minogue fan, and what is astonishing to me about her new album is girl is like, my God, she's got to be a decade older than I am, or even two. I think she's in her 60s now, and she's singing the exact same songs about "Ooh, baby, F me" over here, and I'm like, Kylie, you were singing this in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. Is this the only?
Let's sing about solitaire and feeding ducks by the lake. Let's sing about.
Just like, do you have something else you can write a song about? Maybe. Like, I think you're gorgeous, obviously, but like, this is the limit to which women in music can express themselves. It's kind of sad.
I'm just laughing. So trying to keep the tangents productive instead of memey.
Yes, apologize.
No, it's fine. Or I'm not going to apologize. But okay. So when I say degenerate, I think that there is a certain amount of like moral foundations. I'm not a religious literalist myself, but I think that religion is a vehicle for public morality. I think that enforcing some level of public morality is good. Like, for instance, like, if you have the options between telling a truth and a lie, even if the truth will hurt someone, but it still will be good in the end, I'm always going to teach my children and everybody around me to tell the truth. There are legitimately different like cultures and different people who do not agree with that. When talking about like self-defense or violence, I'll say you should never throw the first punch and you should never instigate a fight, but you should be ready to finish the fight. And by the way, there's all sorts of people who don't agree with that. They're like, yeah, it's okay to be antagonistic and bullying and might makes right and all that kind of stuff. And even if they say different, they act that way. Right.
Yep.
And so I think that public morality and enforcing public morality is wildly important. So when we get away from, I'm going to say it, values that have been transferred to me via the Old Testament and New Testament and Judeo-Christian like memes, I get worried that the social glue that we're dealing with is not strong enough to bind us together. So as a progressive or a liberal, what are you worried we are degenerating from?
That's a really good question, Connor, because it's like on one hand, you start as a like 20 something and you're like, look, people's sex life, it's their business, blah blah blah, like gay sex, it's, everyone's private right, it doesn't hurt anyone. And but it's also just being honest with you. It's hard for me not to look around at some of my friends that are polyamorous and look at the level of chaos that has consistently been in their lives. And I'm not judging them. I don't want to throw them in jail, but it's hard to like not look at that trend being consistent and go, um, is this a stable foundation, right? Something I can't remember if I've said this on the show or not, but because so many young women are doing OnlyFans stuff nowadays, I am increasingly getting calls from people who are aging out of that and trying to move on with a career and are looking for stuff to do, and their past is coming back to haunt them, right? We can have a discussion if that's good or bad, but I think it's a choice that I think we're giving some messages they're very laissez-faire about, and I don't know how it's going to serve people later. So I don't, one of the weaknesses I think as we do this show together is I'm less philosophical than a lot of people in this space are. I tend to be very outcome driven, but I think it's okay to look at studies and think about behavior and to draw conclusions about things that are better for society or they're more likely to like lead you down a good path. I know you and I are both married. We both put our marriages as extremely high priorities. And that's a moral thing to do. I would encourage most people to do that. Don't fuck around on your marriage. Take it seriously. So I don't know. I think standards are good.
But well, and that brings me to a frustration that I have with progressives and liberals. So we're looking at a problem, which is, let's say, young attractive women are in a hypersexualized world. They think that they can either do it discreetly or they don't have anybody in their life who cares whether or not they do it. So they post some degree of lurid photos and videos online. And sometimes they make money, sometimes they don't make money, et cetera, et cetera. Then they age out of it. They either get disinterested in the industry or they never make that much money or whatever. They move on, and then people use that as leverage in order to villainize them later in life when they've kind of moved on from that concept. Now, for me, as somebody who is more sympathetic to the right and the conservatives and all that kind of stuff, and somebody who, I might have another child who might have a daughter one day, I would say the problem is encouraging young women to think that this is like a not consequence free, but something that they can get away with without paying dire consequences, because I don't think that you really should be doing those things. Because what you should be doing at this age is attracting a viable partner who can go through you in life, help you in the ups and downs, maybe raise children with, et cetera, et cetera. You shouldn't be posting this for everybody, because not everybody is going to support you. They'll throw you $5 and they'll forget about you 10 seconds later.
Would you look at Amaranth? Let me ask you what got you. Would you look at Amaranth, who is ungodly wealthy, and say she is not doing the very best path for her? I mean, she's made a lot of money by doing this content. And we both agree she is the minority of the minority of the minority. But like, she produces a compelling show. Like, sex aside, she has some legitimate talent at doing content and making it compelling, right?
But
yeah. Do you find her morally objectionable? Because I think, really, okay.
Yeah, so the reason why this is one of the things that Tucker said. I'm not a huge fan of Tucker Carlson, but it's one of the few great things that he said, which was, I don't worship money, I worship God. And so you could transpose that with, I don't worship money, I worship morality, right? I don't follow purely material gain, I follow like spiritual gain. And so for me, like, Amaranth is insanely wealthy, probably never has to work another day in her life unless she wants to. Her spouse or whatever, will never have to work another day in their lives. But one of the things that happened was Amaranth publicly got into a fight with her significant other, don't know if they're married, about
That's right.
whether or not she was going to continue doing pornographic things or admitting that he existed, and that he wanted her to not acknowledge that he existed publicly and to continue doing aggressively pornographic things because he saw it as a way for both of them to profit. Whereas she allegedly during that incident wanted to back away from the pornographic things. Now, all of this kind of blew up and then dissipated, and then she went back to doing pornographic things and all that kind of stuff anyway, so nobody really knows the dynamics of the relationship. But here's my thing. One, if that was my daughter, the partner would be in the fucking Everglades tied to cinder blocks within a week. And then two, even if that was done as a publicity stunt, that means that Amaranth and her partner are comfortable creating domestic abuse drama in order to drive attention to sell pornography. That's like a spiritual corruption that I don't think is worth any amount of money in the fucking world. So yeah, that's the way that I view it.
I think there's probably a darkness that's associated with that. I mean, I don't have a lot of friends that have been in the sex industry for a really long time, right? So maybe after this goes live, they'll call me and chew me out. But I would imagine there's a darkness that goes with that is probably true. But then again, there's also a darkness that goes along with Twitch streaming. Like everyone in this space is dealing with this toxic underculture. So I don't know if I agree with you on that. I think the difference I think in our positions is I would recommend for a young woman to do something else with her life. I would point out that the stats are very much not in her favor, and that while I may believe in a theoretical world where women do not have content like that weaponized against them, that is not going to exist in my lifetime or hers, right? And I would encourage her to go down that path and to try to be taken seriously. Everyone's not going to do that. I think we both recognize that one is probably a statistically better path. The difference is I don't really have that strong a moral opinion on it compared to you. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, just to hammer it home a little bit harder, not even from the creator side, one of the social blights, which I think is just true of pornography in general, although I'm not going to go so far as to say that we should ban pornography entirely. I think that there can be a rare person. Johnny Sins is a pornographic actor who allegedly is very comfortable with his lifestyle. I think his wife is very comfortable with their lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. And I haven't watched that many interviews with them, but they seem comfortable and happy with their lives. And I think that it's possible that that person could exist where the consequences of this lifestyle they're okay with and they're happy, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that statistically,
don't you think part of that is American? I think that's very American, right?
But I'm not purely rugged individualist either. So,
all right, fair.
So the thing is, like, I think that person can exist and we should make room for the exceptions, okay?
Yeah.
But the exceptions basically necessitate rules. So I think as a rule, most people will not be Johnny Sins or Kiss of Sins, right?
Yeah.
Then on top of that, there's the consumption side, which I also view as potentially problematic.
Yes. Oh my God.
Because if we are raising a generation, for me, when I was coming up, if you wanted to see a boob, you needed to find a Sears magazine and it was still covered in a brassiere. Okay. That was, the level of access to female bodies that I had as a teenager. Right. Whereas nowadays you have instant access to all the most hardcore pornography that you've ever seen in your entire life. And it's kind of like it's a pornography addict's dream, I guess. So, but my problem is, specifically with OnlyFans and stuff where it's like a subscription paid model and all that kind of stuff, and there's a parasocial relationship with a pornographic actress. My main problem is that this is energy that these young men should be spending on finding their real partners, spending their money on local women, spending money at the bar or at the gym or at their church or at whatever. And as a result, this is acting as a siphon for society's most damaged and vulnerable men, and we just don't care about them because they're men.
So, Connor, before I did the debate with John Doyle at it was a university a few weeks ago, I just, truth be told, I don't have kids. I just don't think about this subject that much. And the subject was, should we have a national ban on all pornography? And I had never looked at modern stats on how many young men are addicted to pornography, and I was blown away. I was blown away by how big a problem this is. There are YouTube channels trying to get men like off this stuff. There is rehabs popping up all over the country. The stats on it are not great. We don't have great stats, but it's certainly like statistically significant. So, and of course, like you start thinking about it, and you're saturating these young men in like the most extreme sexual like information or feed they could get, and of course they're indulging in that instead of like going out and understanding how to interact with women. Of course that's happening. So I fully agree with you that this is a really serious problem. But what is the policy prescription that you want to advocate for that?
I jump between authoritarian and libertarian all the time on this subject.
Yeah.
Literally, like it depends on the day. From a prescription standpoint, I just think it's 18 age gate. Like all porn should be age gated, and then shit. I think at the end of the day, this is going to be a skill issue. The reason why I was like smiling and smirking while you were talking about like porn centers and addiction centers and all that kind of stuff is because I was remembering a Shoe on Head video recently where she was talking about like how poorly men are doing and how there's like Batman Sigma male affirmations in order to quit pornography. And like I was just like laughing so hard. Like, but that's also like, it's funny, but it's also really sad that like there's probably like a 22-year-old guy who hasn't had a real relationship, and he's going to a wholesome male hero to reaffirm that he can beat his porn addiction. There's a sad reality to that, but then also
I'm not gonna lie to you, it's not funny, but
it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but then I kind of go skill issue on this too, because it's like I want young men to do well. I want to, even in the future, like create step by step all the things that I've learned that I think a young man needs to know, and this is how I develop myself and all that kind of stuff. I want to create that kind of content. But the truth is that if you're I fucking hate saying it. But if you're like so addicted to porn that you can't have normal fucking relationships, that needs to be a red alarm to you in order to get your shit together, rather than like we as a society need to come kidnap you from, Chud Logic would call it a goon cave. We need to kidnap you from your goon cave and force you out into the light to go lift weights and talk to human beings. Again, I wouldn't send a officer of the state to save somebody from pornography addiction.
I think that's fair. So I think one of the areas of policy I'm really interested in, and dude, this is so fucking hard to do because you're intersecting free speech and free marketplaces and all of that. And I suspect we're not going to agree on this. But I do think that the government has a role to play as far as making sure that the online infrastructure is working for people in a general sense, right? Because right now, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all these things are tweaked at profit at all cost, engagement at all cost, addiction to it at all cost. And we have study after study that shows what it's doing to society. It's damaging democracy. It's making us unhappy. It's giving girls body issues. It's making it impossible for right and left to talk to each other because the parties are getting so much more extreme. It's bad, 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 bad. And the libertarian and a whole lot of people on the left just want to look at that and go, can't do anything about it. The government's so dumb, can't can't like I dream of a government that's not filled with geriatrics, that's actually interested in this stuff and is interested in thinking about ways to change the incentives there so it's not so destructive to the American people. That's an incredibly hard problem to solve, but I think that there's a role to play in not destroying our young people before they even have a chance to get a job, like get a start in life. I think there's a role there. Does that make sense to you?
It does. I would absolutely do R&D. One of the things that
R&D?
research and development
Okay. Yeah.
for like different kinds of social media applications, because for instance I noticed that I log into Twitter and I am angry all the time,
Yeah.
and I love it. I love how angry I am because I get to see the dumbest opinions in the world fed directly to my brain, and I can get upset by them, and I can try to say something snarky and mean and funny. And then sometimes people like my snarky and mean and funny comments, and sometimes they don't. And that's what I do on Twitter. And I noticed that when I go to TikTok, I actually don't have a horrifically corrupted TikTok algorithm. I did not become 17% more anti-Semitic after 3 hours on TikTok, as Nikki Haley said. So on TikTok,
It's
like,
actually 18%. So
yeah. So I was just watching TikToks and I was like, oh my God, I'm in a good mood. And it was just because it was funny people doing pranks and stunts and video games and miniatures. And I was like, what a wholesome, positive environment for short form content to make me feel happy. And then I was like,
Yep.
I hate this. I'm going back to Twitter. So I haven't been on TikTok since, because I realized that they were trying to make me happy. And I was like, fuck this. So there's a part of like voluntary selection of which emotion you want to experience in your social media experiences. But I do think that literally the United States government could study how social media applications promote virality, and then what chemicals go into the human brain as a result, and then the effects on people's lives. And
Yeah.
considering we're increasingly living in a hybrid real digital space, this is going to be wildly important for the future of humanity.
I couldn't agree more, and I think it's our responsibility. To bring it back to the porn issue, I think that the number one policy goal is one of the things I'm really focusing on this cycle is to get Democrats to talk more about what's going on in men's lives. I think we have inadvertently become the party of women and gay people and people of color and a whole bunch of other, special interests, people with disabilities. And that's fine, but we're leaving so much of the population nowhere else to go but into the arms of the crazy right. And I think it's okay for us to say we care about you too. Here are the you have value to us, right? We don't just expect you to laugh off these problems in your life. The suicide rates are really stark. The number of young men they've just failed to launch, and they call them NEETs, no education, whatever it is, or talent. These are skyrocketing numbers. So I do think we need to start taking a role to look critically at why so many young men are failing to launch. And I think we need a real policy solution to that. It's just hard as hell to even get that going. So that is my long about monologue about the Twitch meta. That it's a problem that's always like, you're never going to we'll be 500 years in the future and you're going to have young men that are going to want to see boobies. That's just never going to change. It's part of the human experience. But I think that there are ways to make sure this isn't like so damaging or they're getting exploited with the OnlyFans models.
Yeah. And just to put my little bow on that, I do think like age gating pornography is absolutely important. I think that Pornhub being called out that they were posting underage content, and they were posting like criminal content basically, and they were posting sex trafficking content, and then they started a producer side ID verification system. I think that should probably be implemented. That way you avoid sex trafficking, abuse, child abuse, all that kind of stuff. So all that could be implemented on supply side, and then on demand side, I think, you know, we need to get good if we're going to be a free society. If we live in a Christian nationalist theocracy, then, you know, obviously rules change, which actually kind of brings us to the next one. If you're ready to move, are you ready to move to the next one?
I'm not. I want to circle back around on this. Where is it? Help me figure this out, man, because you're smart. You think about philosophy a lot. What is, like, I think both of us agree that, like, you know, heterosexual sex, fine. I think, you know, gay sex, that's fine. That's, you know, we don't want anyone involved with that. How do you kind of start figuring out this line of, you look at lolly stuff, it's clearly degenerate. It's clearly indulging people's impulses towards pedophilia and sexualizing children. Like, how does, like, there are two questions that come to my mind. A, why does the left have such a hard time denouncing this shit? That I don't understand that. And B, like, how do we kind of define what degenerate is and what standards should be?
No, I think these are excellent questions. So why does the left have a problem with this? The right, I'm sure there are sexual degenerates or whatever who do wild shit all the time. As a matter of fact, that's one of the greatest, like, appeals to hypocrisy that people have on the political stage is, look at this fire and brimstone sexual conservative who turns out they were going to the bathhouse on the weekends, right? Like every single weekend for the past 6 years. So that's a favorite. But why is this such a problem on the left? I think it's because the normie sphere in the thousands and the 90s when I was coming up, in conservatives in general, have always been okay with bullying sexual minorities. And so whether it was trans people or, you know, homosexual people in the thousands, people still love throwing around anti-transgender and anti-homosexual slurs. I actually, you know, even me, I've been watching a lot of commentary content. And so I would never say the F slur intentionally to a homosexual person to indict their moral character for them being homosexual. However, there's a power behind the word that, like, indicts somebody's, like, their masculinity, right? It indicts whether or not they're, like, fully a man or fully an adult or whatever. And so the right wing has no problems bullying that. Whereas the left wing, I think because they got so used to defending transgender people and homosexual people or whatever, they have almost like a momentum default to defend the people who are being bullied. So if that is minor attracted people, or if that is LoliCon consumers, or if that is furries, as an example, I know it's not purely a sexual thing. I have furries in my community, good God. But you know, people who, like, do zoophile shit, there's always, like, one, there's a liberal thing to just tolerate it as long as it's not hurting people. And then two, there's a reflexive defensiveness of the person being bullied, even if they fucking deserve it.
I think that's really well said. You know, I was watching the shoe Balenciaga horror today, and yeah, I don't know if you remember this particular drama.
Oh, I remember it well.
Yeah.
Oh, not only do I remember it well, I was also watching some recap drama recently in reference to this.
There we go. There we go. So, you know, this is basically, you know, there was a shoot for Balenciaga where some art director, I will assume, thought it was a really good idea to put a very young woman out there, make her look underage, and basically do an art shoot with a whole bunch of political and sexual overtones. And I'm sure to them, they thought they were making a really artistic statement. And I've been thinking so much, like, how did this situation happen?
What statement, though? Yeah. Maybe you can explain that to me, because what statement, though? Because for instance, just to summarize this along with your summary, the state, so it was children holding teddy bears that had what I would say 80% of the population agreed were sexual fetish gear, right?
Yeah.
Then same children, same photo shoot, they had them with a whole bunch of, like, glasses and flasks that looked alcohol themed, right?
Yeah.
And then different photo shoot. In the background of the photo shoot, somebody had printed out specifically the like the case law that had made the production or consumption or the possession. It might have been just been the possession. It made the bar higher for possession of child pornography to be like a serious crime. And so the counter arguments were so fucking weird. But like, for me, it looks like you're at minimum, this is my minimum, is you're trying to be provocative by taking children and putting them next to adult things. That is the minimum. And I get so much more uncomfortable and so much less charitable really fucking quick. But I'll start there.
Yeah. No, I think it's fair. Yeah, I do just want to back up a second. Yeah, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of art, right? That's there. I feel that way. That doesn't mean I have to like it. So I think, you know, here on the left, we joke all the time, like, look at those dumb conservatives. They just want to own the libs. Oh, look at them. I think this was that exact opposite approach. And what I think this, I have no proof to this. This is just me guessing that every time I've been around people that do fashion shoots like that, it tends to be really, really young gay men. And I think they just have I think that there was no emotional connection. It was just a stick in the eye to the conservatives, not realizing they were going to do real damage to the company. And, you know, also, Shu, if you see this and you get upset, I apologize. I don't want to psychoanalyze your life. I don't know you, so I'll just speak for myself. I have long guessed that Shu has a strong reaction to this stuff because of trauma that happened in her past. I remember for me, I had some people in Mississippi growing up that tried to molest me. It still gives me flashbacks to think about today. Really gross stuff. And I think for me, I have a really visceral response to that brings up trauma. And it's not a joke to me. So I think that the left, in this kind of desire to, you know, own the libs, I think we're doing something I think a lot of people would find morally repugnant.
Well, okay. And then this is my thing, right? Because I really do. I try to be sensible and measured and caring and kind to every kind of person that walks, you know, walks from different styles of life, because I grew up with all sorts of different kinds of people. Like, I still remember a gentleman that I used to bag groceries with at the local Albertsons. His name was Cephas. He was a gay man. He never tried to bang me. He never tried to diddle me. He was a super nice guy. We had great times together, bullshitting and smoking cigarettes. He was a fucking awesome dude. I never want that guy to get bullied because he's gay. Randy, my supervisor at the car wash down the road, he was also gay. Gay man. Never thought it. He was the most masculine dude I'd ever met in my entire life. I just found out that he was married like 3 months into working at the job. Awesome fucking dude. When I was in the military, met a whole bunch of lesbians. I met a few, you know, since getting out, I've met a few trans folk. There are so many people who are really cool from every single demographic. So I don't ever want to impugn the morality of people just because they fit a certain gender or sexual or racial or ethnic category. However, like, it makes it really fucking hard for me to not say that progressives and liberals and some sexual minorities are not giving cover to fucked up shit when we have stuff like Balenciaga happen, when we have stuff like the LA Gay Men's Choir, which, by the way, this was to own the cons as well. They sang a song about how Christians were panicked and homophobic, and they, you know, they're coming for that the gays are coming for your kids or something like that. So they had 500 men singing a chorus, "We're coming for your kids."
Jesus.
Now for me, I've known gay men my entire life. They are some of the most lurid people, like some of the most, like, they will say the wildest fucked up sex shit you've ever heard in your entire life. I can't believe that out of a few dozen, because it probably wasn't 500 literally, but out of a few dozen gay men, there was nobody saying that us singing "We're Coming for Your Kids" over and over and over again wouldn't be read as like attempted pedophilic propaganda.
Yeah.
And not only that, that it could result in violence. Like, that's my other thing too. Like, if we're citizens, like, functioning in a fucking country together, and we're all supposed to be pushing in the same direction, gays and trans people are just like us, they're friends, they're neighbors, they're citizens, they're people we love, etc., saying that you're coming for fucking people's kids, that's the kind of shit that'll get you fucking shot. So,
That's right.
So sorry for the
I
rant,
can't
but
defend that.
I couldn't believe it.
This is first I'm hearing of this. I can't defend that. It's terrible. And this is the kind of, I see so much of this in the LGBT movement, like this, just not giving any kind of thought. It's like there's something on the left that is really frustrating for me right now, where we're so allergic to optics or worrying about what people may think or interpret the things that we are saying, as if we're just imbued by God by the most perfect political opinions, and we don't actually have to work with anyone in a democracy to pass any of the policy we want. Of course, they're gonna the lights are gonna shine from the heavens, and they're gonna understand how much better and right we are about all of that, and they're just gonna come to our side magically. That's not how any of this works. And if you are serious about the policy, I think the difference I have with a lot of people in the trans movement today is I'm really, really serious about the policy. I really, really, really want to make sure the right people have access to care that need care. And I really, really want us to have good scientific studies and funding to get people like the help that they need. But I disagree, like, because I'm so serious about that, the excesses of it that make my job so much harder, that are just destroying us in the polls. It's just, it's really frustrating, Connor, because I don't know where this can go, but another stupid culture war screaming match where no one gets anything they want that makes their lives better. Do you know what I mean?
Not only do I know what you mean, but it's one of the things that does drive me crazy. So when I hear, I'm a huge history buff, like massive, and I forced myself. Okay, I love drama. I listen to Chud Logic, and God help me, I've listened to a few Queeman streams, and I listen to Twitch and YouTube poll drama streamers and all that kind of stuff. And but I forced myself to start listening to Edmund Burke, who was also a huge student of history, and he was saying that, like, this was before the saying those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat it or whatever. He said effectively the same thing, and he was like, wow. I'm surprised by how much energy is wasted in politics, because if politicians studied history, then they would understand that they were fighting battles that had already been fought and won generations ago. And this is a dude who lived like 200, 300 years ago, and he was talking about like the Roman Republic and the Greek democracies. He was talking about them as his inspiration for how history had already been fought and all these negative consequences. I say all this because the quote that drives me fucking crazy, excuse my French, about progressives and liberals and leftists is when they say they're on the right side of history. Okay? Robespierre from the French Revolution thought he was on the right side of history. Mao Zedong, Ho Chi Minh, Pol Pot, Stalin, Trotsky, Lenin, all of these guys thought they were on the right side of history, and they used that as moral justification to shoot civilians in the back of the head. And so when I see the same language directed towards Jews without a second thought in reference to the 10/7 massacres, I get real fucking jumpy, because I'm like, you have all the moral righteousness, none of the historical literacy, and you have none of the optical concerns that you brought up. So anyways, end of rant, but legitimately drives me fucking insane.
We're going to have to do a whole show on October 7th and the parts of the left. Do you watch Piers Morgan by chance? I love his current iteration of his show because he will bring people on and just ask them, like, hey, do you think October 7th was a terrorist attack? Do you think October 7th was a terrorist attack? Do you think Hamas is a terror group? And they can't fucking answer that question.
Did you see the Ivy League? Did you see the Ivy League presidents?
Oh my God.
One of them stepped down and the other one got backed. If I remember correctly, the Harvard president got backed. She still has a job, and the University of Pennsylvania president voluntarily stepped down, likely after pressure.
The New York Times had a story about that, and boy, that was not like a serendipitous, like, I think I'll step down, guys. Maybe I made a mistake. No, there was a lot of back channel stuff. This is okay. So I've got to look. Anyone listening to this can go look at my Twitter. I denounced that instantly, like unapologetically. I will say it again. It was absolute BS. My charitable take, the most charitable take I can take about this is they were prepped ahead of time by $1,600 an hour lawyers whose main mission was trying to avoid them from getting into a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Which is why they were giving all that legalistic BS nonsense, because they were trying to not say stuff that would intimate a lawsuit on the campus. So that said, the easiest, like, please, Connor, ask me that question right now. Like, is calling for the genocide?
Is calling for the genocide of Jews harassment?
Of course it is. Of course. There's the easiest answer.
Hold up. So yes. Okay. My steel man. Okay, because there's I hate this shit. I hate it with my whole heart. But jihad, right, has been used by some scholars in the context of nonviolent holy struggle. And same thing with the Intifada, where allegedly, of course, I'm all repeating, like, talking points that I hear on the internet, so don't take it verbatim, take it with a grain of salt, is that Intifada, like, definitionally means to cast off. And so Intifada can mean, something as simple as two-state solution. Israel goes over there, we go over there, but there's no more oppression, and as a result, the Palestinians are able to thrive within their same territory, to one-party theocratic Palestinian state, right?
Sure.
That involves the wholesale slaughter of Jews who resist.
So look, this is going to get me in trouble. Growing up in Mississippi, I've heard every defense possible for the stupidest stuff you can imagine. I got in an argument in college about someone, about Tar Baby, about how Tar Baby was not a racist slur, and talking about the background of it, and I can't even remember it now. And they had some academic BS justification for it, and I'm just like, who do you think you're kidding right now? I'm sure in some other context at a theology seminary, you can have some academic discussion about that. It's not what people are hearing. It's not what it means. And give me a break, okay?
Yeah, I invite anybody who would be interested in that specific philosophical discussion to go watch the movie Clerks 2, in which a slur is similarly invoked, and a white restaurant employee attempts to reclaim the slur, which I think results in him at minimum getting cussed out, if not hit. So the point being, but like, I would be okay. I think there's something where people do get lawyer brained, and I do understand that these people are afraid of saying something wrong. But what I really liked about law enforcement when I was working in law enforcement was the good faith doctrine. And the good faith doctrine was basically a legal defense that you could assert, where you could say, based off of my training, experience, and good faith and reasonable explanations, this is why I did what I did when I did it, and this is what I was thinking at the time. And if you can articulate why you were thinking what you were thinking, that's actually like a legal defense that you can assert. And so I did that on the street. I also did that in court, and I could see the games that the lawyers were playing, trying to basically, screw me up while I was testifying. And so I think that it's good to have well-paid consultants who help you avoid a lawsuit, But I also think that there's an infinitely more rhetorically sound argument here, which is, I think that if you're calling for the genocide of Jews, that is obviously harassment against people who are Jewish. And if they see it, they're going to be upset by it. It's going to violate our ethical code. However, there are phrases like from the river to the sea who have a variety of definitions to different people. And as a result, we are not comfortable enforcing that as if it's calling for the genocide of Jews. There are certainly people who mean it that way. There are other people who do not. As a result, this is the policy that we're staying. And by articulating it fully and confidently, I don't think you open yourself up to suit, and you also get at what that conservative or what that Republican was really trying to get. They were trying to get a soundbite to say, you're anti-Semitic, and they got it.
And boy, did they hand it to him. It was, oh man, I can't tell that story. I was with a powerful person in politics the day that story broke. And this person, who's nationally known, looked at my Twitter and saw that I had retweeted that. It was like, did you retweet this story with Elise Stefanik? And they were really confused with that. And I was like, yeah, because this is you get moral credibility. Like, we can't look the other way on this stuff, right? Like it makes the left more credible when we admit when we messed up. No offense to your side, but the whole reason the Republican Party is a fuck factory, the shit show at the fuck factory right now, is because no one over there was able to stand up and go, this stuff was nuts, man. This is crazy. This makes no sense. And nobody stood up. So I think it's really important to do that on our side. Yeah.
I'm tearing up a little bit because it physically hurts me. I'm still waiting, right? So I've had plenty of Trump friends, right? I've had plenty of people who gave me Trump as a 4D chess master shit. And I've been waiting for the Kraken. I've just been waiting. I've been waiting for Sidney Powell. She said in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to have incontrovertible evidence of election fraud. It's going to blow the lid off of the whole corrupt DC establishment. We're going to drain the swamp. We're going to expose all these phonies and all that kind of stuff. And instead, what I've gotten is no solid evidence that any court has actually considered for more than a few weeks. And I've also gotten all of those people being convicted for like fraud. And I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting on it, and it's not coming. I'm really sad.
Well, I'm waiting for my side to stop Hamas maxing, so hopefully that will come any second soon.
Yeah,
the number of people I
watching a lot of
personally
TikTok.
know and am friends with that are Hamas maxing right now hurts me, man. It physically hurts me.
They've been watching a lot of TikTok, yeah.
Oh.
Well, okay, so what else do we have on this one? Because this was actually really, really interesting. We went from like porn and ethical considerations and whether or not people are moral or immoral engaging in it. Then we got into practicality and politics and all that kind of stuff. What else do we have on this one?
I'm good on this. Let's hit the next topic.
Okay, so did we, because I could have early onset dementia, did this topic come from the Christian nationalist beheading of a statue of Baphomet, or is this a new topic?
I don't know. You tell me. Go ahead.
Okay, so there was a guy by the last name of Cassidy. I think it was Wisconsin or Iowa or some flyover state or whatever, but he's a Christian conservative. There was a festive Church of Satan display. He could not tolerate it. He ripped off its head in such an aggressive way that the display is now unusable. He's been arrested for vandalism. The Church of Satanism or whatever has made a statement. And then Christian conservatives are currently fighting on Twitter over whether or not this was based or cringe.
Okay, that's fair. I have a serious question for you. I have never met every Satanist, and I have met Satanists that I've ever met on the left was doing it to troll. I've never, and maybe they exist and I don't know that they exist, but it tends to be people that are pagan in the like tradition of paganism and worshiping the earth. I've met some of them, but the people that actually worship Satan, it seems like it's a big troll. So, have you had a different experience like that? Are there legitimate
No.
people that worship Satan? Yeah.
So, okay. So this is my understanding. Bear in mind, this is spread across like 3 different documentaries that I only watched 5 minutes of. So, take it with a grain of salt. But there was a Norwegian black metal singer who was famous for kidnapping somebody, beating them up, and then making them drink their own blood. I don't think he killed that guy. And he was released, but he was arrested for kidnapping charges. And then he was also accused of Molotov cocktailing a bunch of churches in Norway. I think it was Norway. Like, I'm like 95% sure it was Norway. And so ultimately he went to jail for that. I think he might have committed a murder as well. But anyways, what he indicted Christianity of doing is he viewed them as genocidal, as destroying the pagan face of the North, and that paganism encouraged people to see the divine spark within themselves and therefore live their lives to the maximum degree possible while they're on this planet. And then Christianity, by forcing people, some people call it slave morality, Christianity, by forcing people into a slave morality and then waiting for an afterlife, Christianity effectively created a slave class and then promised a life that would never come. And so as a result, he viewed it as big of a spiritual struggle as anything else. That is the closest thing to a Satanist or neo-pagan that I found that was strong. The Church of the Church of Satan in the United States, though, they have a bunch of like non-aggression principle shit. Like they're like very libertarian, and I don't think any of them literally believe in the divinity or deity Baphomet. I think they believe in worshiping your own soul and your own divine spark in your own life rather than the false gods of Christianity. That's my understanding.
Okay. That's fair enough. So, in Satanists, if you're out there, you can write in and let us know. So, my thought of this is pretty much the exact same thing. That obviously, this is an own the conservatives kind of thing that they did. They put it there to just obviously antagonize them and give you a real F you. And, look, I don't talk much about religion in my public role, but, I grew up in Mississippi. And I think that the left so fundamentally miscalculates on religion. I think it's one of the stupidest, most counterproductive thing that we do. If you're just like poking the eye of people that in good faith believe this stuff and putting things in front of them that many of them are going to interpret as evil, it's not funny to me. It's just like giving an FU to your fellow citizens in a way that doesn't accomplish anything. Now, if they're like a legit religion, I think under the Constitution, we do have separation of church and state, no establishment of religion, and they should have an equal say. But it doesn't seem crazy to me to say we have a threshold for the number of people in our town that believe in this or worship this to qualify for having like a something at the town hall. Like obviously a menorah would qualify, obviously a Muslim display would qualify. This just seems like poor calculation to me.
It is. My only beef is that I think that Christians have been used to being a majority for a really long time. That has given them a healthy chunk of public privileges that have been, used in state capitals for a really long time. I think that if you want to complain about LGBTQIA plus flags with fucking Black Lives Matter stripes on it being flown at the Capitol, then you have to do what the Muslims in Minneapolis or whatever did, where they said, we're flying the municipal flag, the state flag, and the flag of the United States of America. And that's it. And everything else is, if you want to fly it at your own house, that's totally fucking cool. This is a public space for everybody. And that's my solution to it. I do, there's a tempting part of me, though, that just, like, I hate anti-theists so much.
Yeah.
I just hate him so much. So I do want to behead a statue of Baphomet myself. I don't want to go to jail for beheading a statue of Baphomet. but I want to do it. So bad
Uh,
impulses.
I would not tell the cops on you if you did that.
Oh,
I'd
thanks.
have your back on that.
You
I'd
really
have your back
shouldn't.
on that.
No, it's totally unprincipled. Like, as a Republican, you should believe in free speech and freedom of conscience and freedom of religion and freedom of association. You should believe all that kind of stuff. But that is the fight that's going on the right, is that right wingers or whatever are saying, like, well, fuck that. Like, even pretending to worship Satan is evil enough. Rip this shit apart. And then there are other Republicans who are pointing out, well, this violates everything it means to be a Republican who cares about the Constitution of the United States. And so it's a conflict that's not going to be resolved. But it's
So,
frustrating.
how did you feel about that town in, what was it, Minneapolis, that
Mhm.
kind of outlawed that? Did you support that?
So based. Right before 10/7, I really thought the Muslims and the Christians were going to come together. I thought we were going to hold hands. I thought we were going to be best boys. I thought we were going to have conservative white Sharia in the United States sometime soon. I was really looking forward to it. Unfortunately, that whole Jewish massacre and cheerleading Jewish massacre got in the way of Muslim Christian conservative relations. So yeah,
Yeah,
I thought it was based.
so this is my argument on this. So we've had a lot of scandals here in Massachusetts about like the schools. Like there have been people that have flown like Blue Lives Matter flags at schools, and it's really freaked out administrators, and it's been taken down. And I understand like the argument that this is a neutral space and we need to take this down. Yeah, I think like strongly political messages like vote for Biden or vote for Trump, I think that's obviously like inappropriate. To me, at least to just tell you where I feel differently, I think there are gay kids. And I think that if we, like, one of my things with like trans stuff is I think if nothing else, public schools should have anti-harassment policies and let trans kids be themselves, if for the pure reason that if you're effing a kid up at the first part of their life, what are they supposed to do if they can't even get an education? How are they supposed to get surgery or go to college? Like, if you are sabotaging them at step one, what is going to happen to them? So in that same way, I think that schools do, like, I know people hate this phrase, but I think schools should be a safe space. Like, I think people should feel safe there. And, maybe town hall is a different situation, but I don't think that's crazy to have like LGBT inclusive stuff in a public school. That said, I've seen the TikToks, and I know there are some teachers that are going too far. I don't stand by that. But I think like the general principle of how do we make people safe without preaching to them in a way that's not age appropriate, I think that's an important discussion.
Yeah, so my take on this would be, different communities are going to have different feelings on this, and the main thing is, once you start introducing, let's say that we say we're going to do an inclusivity day, people can wear their pride stuff, et cetera, teachers can wear bands. You're effectively taking a endorsement, and I know that a lot of progressive people and a lot of people who are homosexual, transgender, whatever, they're going to say, well, this is obviously the correct moral choice, so we're going to do it. But when it gets into the realm of political, which is like politics, I just view as like, how is power wielded?
Sure.
You are making a political statement because there are, Orthodox Jews, there are Christian conservatives, there are conservative Muslims who legitimately just don't believe in any of this stuff at all.
Sure.
And so at that point, if you're opening up the door for some kind of political statement about one issue, how are you not opening up the political statement for instance, you said Blue Lives Matter. Well,
Right.
some people view that as an unequivocal, full-throated support of everything law enforcement does, including police brutality, and a completely uncaring attitude towards police brutality and the suffering of minorities inside the United States. That's how some people read a Blue Lives Matter flag. 98% of the people who are flying that shit are just saying, I like cops. I got cops in my family, or something like that. And so with that, I don't know how you don't open up the floodgates. And then also, I still think that you can achieve the policy results of making sure that trans kids don't get bullied into suicide and making sure gay kids don't get bullied into suicide by effectively enforcing anti-stalking, harassment, and bullying codes of conduct that I think are probably already the part of every major public institution.
Yeah. Well, I think most trans kids would probably tell you they are not having a great experience at school, but
I'm
I
sure.
agree with you. For me, the policy and what the if I had to pick between a stupid symbol of a flag up in someone's like classroom and a good set of policies and a guidance counselor and a procedure to step in when someone can't get an education, I'll pick the latter, obviously, every single time. I think the difference I'm having here is this to me feels like access to the public commons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's my highest principle here because it's not about trying to indoctrinate or disrespect people's views. Like there are a lot of people in Mississippi that sincerely believe that interracial marriage is evil, that black people I'm not joking, that black people should not
Fucking
be going to
hell.
school with white people, and they can give you
No,
Bible verses for that. 100%.
you're ripping open a psychic scar for me. It's so
Yeah.
bad. Like, okay, so I was raised by my
Yeah.
parents are from New England. Okay, like
Mhm.
my parents were born in Boston, I guess, and I was actually born in Concord.
Wow.
But we moved down to Florida when I was like 3, right? So I've been here a majority of my life. And so my mom was told in middle school, don't have Connor go to PE because he's going to hang out with those kids. And then my mom was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they're like,
Right.
the blacks. And I was like, Ma, that's so fucked up. Like we live
Yeah.
in like a pretty like multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic, cosmopolitan hub. We're not in the fucking backwoods of Alabama. We're in fucking Orlando, right? What the fuck is going on? And I asked her, I was like, do you think it was more common for people to have like the liberal anti-racist perspective that you did, where you're just like, I'm going to let my kid enjoy his interests, and if there's black kids there, awesome. If they get along, they'll figure shit out, whatever, who gives a shit? And if they fight, we'll figure it out, right? I was like, was that more common than the racist perspective? And she was like, no, I'm pretty sure it was like more racist than it was still liberal. And I'm like, what
Really?
the fuck? Like,
Wow.
but that's mind blowing to me because I've grown up in this world where it's like being racist is fucking bad. So for me, it's
Yeah.
like to know, well, it's almost like it's alien to me that
Sure.
now being racist is fucking cool in certain dissident parts of the internet. And then also that there's like a subculture of people 30 years older and over who are like,
Mhm.
oh no, yeah, actually I am racist. I actually do hide
But
my
they believe
judgments of other
because it's in
people.
the Bible, right? So you can't let someone, because of their belief in the Bible, stop someone from having access to the public commons, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is why, to this day, it was actually just a few years ago that, like in Mississippi schools, they will have to, like every few months, go in. Someone looks at everyone in the classroom and they write on the board, they say whites and they say blacks underneath
Mm-hmm.
it. They'll count how many white people are there and how many blacks, and then take a photo of it and walk off. This is part of like Mississippi complying with the 1960 Civil Rights Act because we would
Jesus.
not integrate our schools. So all of this is to say, there is a real issue with people having standards and like stopping access to education. And I think that was my real objection to that. It's not that, I see like these TikToks of well-meaning, very young teachers that are, non-binary and have blue hair and are like doing these games that I think that it's obviously going to upset people. It obviously gets interpreted as indoctrination. I think it's done with good intentions. I think a lot of people come to a different assessment. So I think that's inappropriate for a public school. But every kid has got to be got a fair shake,
Sure. I think the thing is though, let's just run through a day and you can tell me where the access issues are.
Sure.
And well, actually, this is something that I hope we could solve, relatively speaking, easily. So I would say you show up, you 7 a.m. whatever, you're dreary eyed. Your parents don't let you drink caffeine, so you take your morning amphetamines. You show up to school. You get a chocolate muffin from the muffin guy for $2.25 because he's based. You go to class. You sleep through algebra. You go through your day, whatever. And I would say, really, like, bathrooms, I guess, is there. I do have a solution for that. But then what is the, if there isn't an LGBTQIA plus Black Lives Matter flag flying, what is being denied to the transgender child going to middle school or high school?
Well, just the fact that they need a culture that makes them feel safe, the same way that black student in like, here's a good example. I mean, this is a
I was about to say,
private
do
school.
black
Yeah.
students feel safe? Like,
Here's a really good example. At my private school in Mississippi, we had one black girl in my entire school, and she got
right?
stabbed in the eye with a pencil. She never
Jesus.
came back after that, right? She didn't feel so safe. So, it's I think the policies are the most important part, right? And the bathroom stuff is going to be a whole show. We'll get into that in a future one. But I think like making sure there's a policy if someone is getting bullied to the point they can't get an education,
Hmm.
if like they're being disrespected in a way that really crosses the line to dehumanizing. And this is the same standard that I think all kids should have, right? Like
Hmm.
public school should be safe.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what I was poking at is, I feel like some of the bullying stuff went a little bit too far, or the anti-bullying stuff went a little bit too far, to the point that I was in a beef with some kid. He was just being an asshole. We were being teenagers, whatever. And then the times that I fought back or whatever was when I got in trouble, because if he shoulder checks me and calls me an F slur or whatever and keeps walking, if I don't make a mess of the situation, then nothing big happened, right? No big deal. Whereas if I stop them and kind of square up or whatever, then the teachers are on us like flies on shit because they want to, break up a fight, right? And then
Yeah.
we both, I get in trouble for instigating because I'm the person squaring up, whereas he's the one who actually started it because he was the one, shoulder checking and being an asshole. It's okay. I got him at a party. I beat his ass. It was awesome. So, anyways, the point being that that's the kind of thing where, for me, the anti-bullying stuff, what special provisions, what policies, that's what I'm asking.
I think you'd probably want someone who is a parent to have more of an insight on this, but it just seems to me like extreme bullying, right? Like obviously physical violence, shunning, like, how cruel kids can be. Like there's this myth that kids are beautiful, innocent creatures. That's not the way I remember all this stuff.
No,
So
of course not. No,
just, yeah,
literally, they're some
yeah,
of the most cruel, mean, evil bastards on the fucking face of the planet.
exactly,
Yeah, teenagers
exactly.
are vicious. Yeah, and then also, okay, so what I would say is, I think I'm coming up with a policy now.
Go
I
for it.
think that existing anti-bullying policies are probably pretty strong. They, or at least they were pretty strong when I was in the thousands. However,
Yeah.
I
You've
do
got
think that
kids. Maybe
there's,
you know better than I do. So
well,
yeah.
I was going to say but school administrations, I could see school administrations, if they didn't agree with a certain thing, like trans kids, maybe they would let a trans kid get bullied disproportionately because they didn't want to
Yep.
enforce it because they didn't believe in it. So then I think at that point they should be open for civil suit for not enforcing their own policies.
I
And
agree with you. Yeah.
that's where I would go with it. So
I will trade the flag all day long for that policy. I would trade that day
like,
in and day out. I
yeah,
would
if you're
instantly.
not protecting homosexual or transgender identifying teenagers and they get bullied as a result due to your negligence, then you're open to lawsuit. Yeah.
To the point that it is provably affecting their education, right? Like we're not talking about mean words because Yeah, we're both on Twitter. We've seen this weaponized in ways that are crazy, but yeah, to a significant degree, that makes a lot of sense to me.
All right, cool. Then any saved rounds on that topic?
I'm good to go. We've got
Okay.
10 minutes. What's left?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you the choices. So we have Hunter Avalon almost getting murdered. We have Destiny and Melina split up, which I know is drama, but sometimes drama is fun. And then the Republican debate, which I did not watch, but basically we could just talk about how the Republicans are falling all over themselves and how Trump is going to be the guy, but then also Trump is having brain farts. So where do you want to go?
Well, I didn't see the debate either. With Hunter Avalon, I don't know what to say other than, I'm sorry, we do some stuff with him.
What about
So,
guns?
what about the guns?
Well, so for me, I wrote a little statement. Kyla Erudite, I don't know if they're going to release it publicly or not, but they were just asking me to make a little written assessment of the situation and just kind of
Oh,
break down what was
really?
going on. Yeah, I can
Yeah,
send it to you too.
please do.
Yeah, but basically it was a written assessment of the situation of how Hunter conducted himself, how Holly conducted himself, how a lot of really brave John Wick souls on the internet are giving Hunter and Holly shit when they're basically a bunch of assholes, and
Ooh,
also some of the laws around guns and stuff. They didn't ask me for the laws around guns, but that's what I did. I think the main thing that I really don't like is that some people, not a lot, but they're acting like if victims of domestic violence or dating violence were more assertive through the courts, then it would prevent violent people from getting guns. And this
okay.
is true, but
Yeah,
as somebody who dealt with that, I think it's wildly ignorant to put all of that on the victims when the courts are slow to respond.
that's right.
Restraining orders are ultimately a piece of paper. Victims get threatened out of prosecuting domestic and dating violence all the time. And also, this entire process can take months or years. And you're also effectively turning the legal system on somebody you love. And a lot of people are really hesitant to do that. And
Yeah.
so that was the victim blaming Holly was gross to me, is what I'm saying.
It was really disgusting to see. Yeah, no, I obviously agree with that assessment. I mean, I have an assertive personality. I would go to the cops in that situation. I suspect you
You're
would
like,
too.
don't.
But not everyone is going to behave in that same way, right? You can't imagine everyone has that same personality. If you know anything about the dynamics of physical abuse, it's effed up, right? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's not reasonable. I mean, Holly seems like a really sweet girl, like very young, obviously, but I hate that that happened to her. Like, I'm
Mhm.
looking at the pictures of her leg, and I see where the pellet went through the meat, and it's close to where I had knee surgery, and I know how much it hurt to walk for 2 years after that. So I'm going,
Yeah, and
oh
she's probably got horrific bruising around that shit right now. Yeah, it's fucking
my God.
awful. But
What was your assessment of, yeah, go
can
ahead.
we
Sorry.
applaud Holly?
Yeah.
Because holy shit, because
I
Holly.
know. I
So
know.
the story that I understand, and we'll catch people up real quick. So basically, Holly is Hunter's new girlfriend. I don't know if they moved in together, but she was spending time at his apartment. She was dating an abusive guy for 11 years named Conrad. Conrad placed air tags in her bags trying to track her location in order to find Hunter. Then Conrad goes to Hunter's apartment with a shotgun and tries to kill Hunter. Holly, before this incident kicks off, Holly and Hunter both walk outside the apartment because they don't know whether or not it's Conrad who's hanging out in the parking area. They're walking side by side, shoulder to shoulder. Hunter sees the gentleman, and this is all a summary. So if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I'm just summarizing as best I can. Hunter sees that it is Conrad. He turns around and takes off while Holly steps in front of Hunter in front of the fucking gunman. So the
Jeez.
gunman won't shoot.
Wow.
Then she turns and runs up to the apartment. Sometime between them running back to the apartment and them closing the door, Conrad does fire and
Jeez.
catches Holly. Again, could be wrong. This is all secondhand story. catches Holly with a buckshot pellet to the leg, which does hit her in the leg. Luckily doesn't hit an artery. They lock the exterior door. They run to the patio. They lock I don't know if they lock the patio door, but they close the patio door. Holly is watching the exterior door to the apartment from the inside, looking through the glass pane. Hunter is watching the exterior door from the outside as he's calling law enforcement, and he also videotapes a section of it. Law enforcement shows up relatively quickly, I would say within a few minutes. They get into a gunfight with Conrad. Conrad ultimately takes his own life. So that's the situation. But John Doyle, your former debate partner, was super fucking gross about it. Jeremy
what did he
from the
say?
corner,
I missed this. Yeah.
He said that he is happy that Hunter is okay, but considering Hunter was anti-gun, pro-gun control, defund the police, pro BLM, and a libcuck and all that kind of stuff, he hopes that this harrowing incident reforms Hunter's takes on all these political issues, which, by the way, I didn't see Hunter's perspectives as John Doyle articulated. I haven't seen that substantiated at all.
Is he? I've worked with him. He doesn't seem like a crazy outer space kind of leftist. Maybe I just need to get
I'm
more
sure
familiar.
I'm sure he's Steelman defund the police in the past, but that also has not really much to do with the situation, right? You could still be pro gun control and still pro private firearms ownership. You can still be for reforming the police and still think it's bad to fucking murder people. It's fucking. It was a shit take. And then Jeremy from the quartering.
It's just cruel too.
Well, yeah, and it's like, read the fucking room. Can you give them a couple of weeks to like get their fresh air and like recover from a trauma before you try to bully them online, you fucking asshole? Excuse my French. And then Jeremy from the quartering was shitting on them for having GoFundMes. And I was thinking to myself, it's like, if my ex stalked and ultimately died outside of my apartment building, you better fucking believe that I'm not going to want to stay at that apartment building. Are you fucking shitting me?
Yeah.
So just dog shit take from Jeremy, dog shit take from John Doyle. So yeah.
Well, I contribute to that GoFundMe. I know Holly had a separate one. Someone made me aware of that, so I'm going to chip into that. But just I think about the not to get into Gamergate, but I think I had legit trauma from all the death threats. I can only imagine how much worse that would have been if someone showed up to my house with an actual gun. So just thinking about him, it's just, I'm sure, like, when you were serving as a police officer, you had to have seen violence or stuff like this too.
Yeah.
So I bet your heart goes out. Yeah.
No, not only does my heart go out, my fucking adrenaline spikes,
Yeah.
like that's the thing. It's like, so, not to get too crazy, but like post-traumatic stress and post-traumatic stress disorder is your body reacting as if it was in fight or flight when there is not a fight or flight situation going on. And so Holly and Hunter have a completely justified reason for why their adrenaline should be through the fucking roof. And now going forward, if they deal with stalkers or if they deal with harassers or death threats or whatever, like, I can only imagine your adrenaline shooting through the roof. So that's the other thing where I'm happy to say that I would say 90%, 95% of the public response to the Hunter and Holly situation was in support of Hunter and Holly, but that remaining 5% was just so disgusting that I think it needs to get called out.
I appreciate that. No, I think it's well said. I hope they, we're gonna have them at the canvassing event in February, and I look forward to giving Holly a big hug because she's been through a lot.
And she's a brave lady. Again, like, I know we're wrapping up, but the reason why Holly allegedly felt comfortable doing that was because Conrad was there to hurt Hunter, not her. But at the same time, spouses or exes or whatever, they change their mind about that kind of shit all the time. So she had no guarantee that Conrad was not going to take his anger out on her. So the fact that she had the instincts to protect someone else by stepping in front of them, I think it just I think it massively speaks to her character that she was willing to do that for another human being. And she could have 10,000 things wrong with her, and I have no idea. But in that moment and in a few of the moments since then, she's been entirely based. Very cool.
As long as we're encouraging people to be their better selves, I want to talk. I know we're going to go a little long, but I want to talk about
Hmm.
Destiny and Melina. So
Hmm.
I have been, Connor, you're married. I'm married. How long have you been married? It's 15 years for me.
Oh, Jesus Christ. We got married December 17th, 2016.
Okay.
So 6
Okay.
years.
So I'm beating you by a little bit. So,
We've been
you know,
together 10.
well, there you go. I I've never been divorced, but before Frank and I got together, he divorced his wife. Right, she cheated on him. It was a whole thing, and I'd never really thought about how divorce affects people until I married Frank, and it really bums him out, even to tell the story to this day. Like you've met Frank, he's a cheery, lovely guy,
Yeah.
and it traumatized him in a really big way. So I've been really disappointed with people treating someone's private marriage as if this is entertainment, right? Like I know Destiny is really good at disassociating from this kind of stuff, but it's like I'm sure this is hurting Melina. I'm sure this is hurting him. And it's like, I don't know. This just doesn't seem like entertainment to me. I've been so disappointed by people's inability to like show any kind of human emotion to this. It's very
I
disappointing.
Yeah, I'm on the crueler side of this. So I have not made any content that I know of intentionally out of this, and that's because like Destiny's a dude, right? He's like a guy. I know him. We're friendly. We're at minimum friendly acquaintances, and I hope to work with him in the future and all that kind of stuff. With Melina, her and I exchanged DMs one time. She seems like a nice, happy gal and obviously has a lot of redeeming characteristics.
Yeah.
Also, I think something that should be remarked is that while, again, they don't know if they're getting back together, at least that's what I saw from the Destiny stream.
Yeah.
But part of his anxiety was the apartment in Sweden. Some of that didn't feel correct to him. The tax issue that didn't feel right to him, and also if they were going to break up, signing a postnuptial agreement because they didn't sign a prenup.
Yeah.
For Melina, allegedly, this is not about money. It's not about clout. It's not about fame. It's not about stabbing Destiny in the back. And so she signed everything that he wanted her to. And I think that
Yeah.
speaks to her character, that
I agree.
in the middle of a contentious breakup, she was willing to do that. I think it also speaks to Destiny's character that he literally said that he wanted to make content out of it, because of course we all do. We all want to
Sure.
be the piranha who are drinking the blood of the deer that went into the Amazon River. But he was like, "Listen, I'm trying to be mature about this, so I'll
And
give
he
you."
was. He
Yeah, and he
was.
was wildly mature about it. And so I want to give him props about that too. Um, I'm a piranha though. I'm just not gonna lie.
Where's the bad part? I'm waiting for it. There we
I'm
go.
just gonna say my instincts are like, I want to know every fucked up detail. Please tell me.
Well, of
Please tell me.
course.
Please tell me all the times that Melina confided details that you didn't like. Please tell me all the times that you went to a party and one of you did too many drugs and then you threw up and then the other person was mad because you made out with somebody after you threw up. Please tell me about, the time that they ditched you at the airport or they went out for food without you. Tell me all that stuff because I'm a drama frog and I want it. But
Look, there's no one
don't.
in this space that does drama better than Destiny. He is the
Yeah.
king of this. I'm not even going to admit how many times I've watched those lab videos because they're
Right.
so good. They're so good.
Right.
They're so good. No one does drama like this. But I don't know. I guess I'm not saying I don't want to know, and I'm not saying I wouldn't watch it. I'm just saying there's a human there, and it's probably best for all involved. Like effing Lav Up, totally legit target. I don't know. This just lands differently for me, but maybe I'm
Okay,
wrong.
what I'll say about that is there's a pseudo vindication of all of Destiny's enemies that were preying on his downfall, because now
Yeah.
they can cry from the rooftops, "Oh, don't you see he's such a bad guy, Melina and him broke up for XYZ ABC speculative reason, etc., etc." Yeah, so I totally get all that, but what I would say is as much as I'm a piranha, as much as I want the taste of blood, et cetera, the I've always had that instinct to empathize with the person who's in the middle of a dog pile. So Lav, Mr. Girl, Darius at different points. I'm trying to think of some other people who took some shit. Book smarts, all that kind of stuff. It fucking sucks. Like, it sucks when you got
It does.
30 to 50 people DMing you, calling you a stupid piece of shit. It fucking sucks. And it's probably worse with death threats or people making fun of your relationships.
That's fair. Fair.
But I did DM Destiny and I said, hey, listen, because he doesn't really like confide in me and everything or anything. So I was just like, hey, listen, I know you're a tough fella. I wish you well in rough waters. And I think that's that's the most mature thing that I could do while still praying for a drama stream. So,
fair enough. I really do think people get him so wrong. I think they fundamentally misunderstand him. He is the most mission first, straightforward person in this space. And, you know, it's just with the whole progressive victory thing. I've obviously worked with him more at this point. I just think he's a good person. And it's surprising to me that more people can't see that. So there it is.
I won't go that far. I think he's a flawed individual whose redeeming qualities outshine his negative qualities, and
that is more accurate. That is more accurate.
And make him attractive, magnetically. He's magnetically attractive because he's flawed and he's fucked up in XYZ ABC reasons, but he's also charismatic and intelligent and rhetorically gifted and all that kind of stuff. So he becomes like a wildly sympathetic character. So I greatly
it's so weird
admire
that
his
he
talent.
and Keffels don't get along because both of them could so easily launch their own cult. Like they have like Keffels, this is what I really appreciate about her. She has such an ability to draw people in to her that it's really remarkable, right? And I think
I did watch the
Keffels
Xanderhall drama. Unfortunately,
yes.
I watched that and enjoyed it, which is fucked up because I was like, no. You guys agree on so much. Please stop.
They're both my friends. I can't say anything on that. I wish them the best. So, oh my goodness.
Oh, somebody in chat said they're okay now. Yes. Good.
They are? Really?
Well, I don't know if that's true, but that's what somebody in chat said. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
you got true. I don't think that's true.
If we learned anything from that entire scenario, is don't use chat as an evidentiary supporter of your argument, right? Like, don't use them, don't consult them, don't take their words as canon, because you will fuck up a relationship by worrying about what other people's chats are saying and doing. So yeah. Well
said. Dude, I think this is going to be the funnest show to do with you. Oh my God. Yeah. I can't wait to really launch this in the new year. So I'm going to go crash, but always a pleasure, and we'll do this next week.
Absolutely. You have a fantastic night. I'll go talk to chat for a second and then we'll wrap it up.
Awesome.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, donations are appreciated. Thank you, Remy LeBeau. I hope y'all enjoyed the content. Oh, no, that wasn't Remy LeBeau. I'm just used to Remy LeBeau. That was Astronaut Farmer. Appreciate both you and Brianna for being normal, insane. $9.99. Thank you kindly, Astronaut Farmer. We try. If you have questions or concerns, go ahead and do @counterpoints down below. I will hang out for a few minutes and answer your questions or concerns. We do have 30 to 35 people on YouTube. We got 10, and I think we peaked out around 20 on Twitch. So again, 50% night. Nothing crazy to shake a stick at, but I want to build the content over time because I think Brianna and I are a good dynamic duo who are not absolutely fucking insane. So if you want to go watch insane people for a bit and then, get your Twitch, YouTube political insanity, get that into your veins, and then you need a white pill that is actually substantive, then come back here and check us out, obviously. And we're, of course, competing 8 to 10 p.m. slot. We're competing with a bunch of shows, but it is what it is. I parasocially love you for being here. Thank you kindly for being here and spending your evening with us. Okay. Nedek, you're saying they're okay now. You were referring to Destiny and Keffels, not Destiny, or not Keffels and Xanderhall. I understand. The reason why Brianna and I were confused was because the Keffels-Xanderhall fight was fairly recent. It was within the past week or two, and they were not on good terms when it ended. So that's why we were confused. This was a good stream, gang. Thank you, Cheese Poo. Thank you, Cheese Poo, for hanging out. Keffels did a whole 180 at rehab because a lot of the cons were nice to her than progressives. True, and that's based. And if we can move her center on some things, then that is fantastic. I just want Destiny to say, are you mad repeatedly? Yes, that is a definitely a debate and divorce tactic. Whenever you're breaking up with your wife or significant other, just ask them, are you mad repeatedly? Jonah Boy, that was fun. Thank you kindly for enjoying it. I sincerely appreciate you. Your thoughts on the GTA 6 trailer and the new Space Marine 2 trailer? There's a new one? There's another new one? Are you talking about like the 30-second one where they showed Captain Titus for 30 fucking seconds? Because I did not consider that a trailer at all. Yeah, so GTA 6, I don't want to play as a woman. I'm just going to be real. I'm not going to buy it unless it's like incredibly highly rated. So, you know, I'm just not going to do it. I think there's so many video games that make you like, you have to play as a woman, or you have to play as this, or you have to play as that, or whatever. And also like Grand Theft Auto 5, like I already did all the crazy shit that I wanted to do. So I'll think about it. I don't want to be a Hispanic woman. I just don't. Thoughts on DGG versus Aiden Ross war? Aiden Ross, in my personal estimation, is proof that you don't have to be intelligent in order to be a successful streamer. I legitimately think sometimes that instead of actually trying to have serious conversations with serious people, or be open to talking, oh shit, let me go full cam, or be open to talking to people of all stripes and varieties and talking exclusively about political subjects or whatever, I think I just need to go live and just be retarded for like 8 to 10 hours at a time, because that literally seems to be the business model for a healthy chunk of these people, is just go live, be retarded. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe when I go full time, I'll just go live 8 hours a day and be retarded. Don't know if you've talked about it, but have you tried, or am I interested in Rogue Trader? I just started playing it and I'm enjoying it myself. Yes. So hold on. Let's wrap up Aiden Ross and then let's get into that. With Aiden Ross, he's retarded. He doesn't have an original thought in his brain. Sometimes he's cute. Sometimes he's funny. Sometimes he's interesting, whatever. But the fact that people watch that dude and take anything he has to say seriously, I don't think they do. But that's alarming that so many people find him entertaining in the first place. Then when it comes to Destiny beefing, if Aiden Ross is going to call him the F slur, then him telling him to kill himself is based. That's my general opinion. Don't know. Oh, Rogue Trader. So I saw the character customization. That looked very cool. I just typically don't like turn-based, and I don't like the Diablo style eye in the sky stuff. I used to play RTSs when I was younger, and shit, what I might do when we go full-time is I might literally play like every single Warhammer game from Fire Warrior all the way up to now, RTSs and turn-based stuff included, just so I can do like game reviews. One, just going live, hanging out with chat, talking bullshit and playing whatever. But then two, also kind of like getting ammunition to do like video game reviews. I might do that in the future, but right now I just don't have the time. I hate that God keeps giving dim fool W's, i.e. Civil War movie. Listen, the Civil War movie has Texas and California teaming up. Come on. Like, how realistic is that? Get the fuck out of here. Speaking of which, Lauren and him need to release a documentary. They already did. So it's paywalled. It's on the Tim Pool website. They released clips on the timpool.whatever thing. And as a result of paywalling it, I think they legitimately just like, they fucking killed 95% of the interest. I hate it when they're paywalling documentaries. That also happened with Crossfire. So it is what it is, you know? So I wish it was on YouTube. I wish it was a bigger splash. I wish people were talking shit about me for being a dissident right-wing propagandist mouthpiece, but unfortunately, it's not going to have the splash that I wanted it to because it's paywalled. I don't know why, but I literally can't stand Xanderhall, like viscerally. I dislike his face and voice. Cole G, I disagree. I think he's like a nice little brother stoner vibe for me, but because he has the nice little brother vibes, I see some of the things he's doing and I'm like, oh, I want to take you under my wing. But he's under Vosh's wing and I don't want to be creepy about it. So, you know, I will leave him to his own devices. Metroid is fucking dope, based. The new Sodaz video is pretty good. Yes. I want to do the Fallout one as a Age of Strife Unification Wars Techno-Barbarian breakdown, and also incorporate Fallout lore, because I watched a bunch of Fallout lore, so I would know what the fuck I was talking about. Excuse me. But I don't want to do it until it's done, because I want to respect the artist. Aiden Ross is an absolute idiot. Kids mistakes his willingness to be bold and brazen for credibility and coolness. True. And I think with characters like that, you have to wait until they're not cool, which Aiden Ross, if he's doing the same shit that he's doing now when he's 35, it will not be cool. I want to play it because I'm from Miami. I want to see if I can find my neighborhood in the game and cause trouble. Yeah. I forgot it was back in Vice City. Hell yeah. That wasn't a war. That was a massacre. Due to such a fragile crybully, he makes Sneeko seem intelligent. Yeah, brutal. Retard mode activated. Based. Just say you're playing a character and be a complete retard. Yeah, that's... when I see how rich these fucking kids are, it's very tempting. All kids below the age of 25. True. It scares me that a man like that can influence so many people. Yeah, the question is whether or not he's, like, actually influencing them to do things, or whether or not he's just kind of, like, riding the wave of retarded interest. Yes, Red Alert. What a classic. Love it. Dark Tide getting a lot of new DLC. True. I haven't gotten back into it, but I will. I will when the time is right. I'm so busy right now, I can't dedicate any time to video gaming. Do you want to watch the Fallout TV show? Indeed, I do. So I watched enough Fallout lore that I really fell in love with the Brotherhood of Steel. So if they're going to be central to the plot, and they also had the airship in there, and they had the helicopters, and those all looked fantastic. So if the narrative is going to be Vault Dwellers come out, they're totally overwhelmed by society, and then they get sucked up into the Brotherhood of Steel because they're the most interesting faction, and then the Brotherhood of Steel walks around like kicking ass and killing synths and all that kind of stuff, I will be so fucking down. And the cool thing about Fallout is there's women and men, and there's people of color, and there's fucking gays and transes, and it's post-apocalyptic whatever the fuck. So like you don't have to really worry about the progressive bullshit, because the truth is it's set in a setting where like the progressive shit will just seem normal. So that'll actually be really nice, instead of taking a setting that's supposed to be conservative or violent or whatever and then shoehorning black dwarf midget women into it. So yeah. Oh. So how capitalist of him. More reason to hate him, so W to me. Based. The Navigator woman can get it just with a blindfold. Nuke, I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but good. Random question. What are your guys' favorite Pringles flavor? I like sour cream and onion. I like other ones too. I'm a Diablo ARPG fan. I played Warhammer 40k Inquisitor ARPG for a bit. Yeah. And actually seeing that was not turn-based kind of made me want to go do that as well. That's part of the reason why when we go full-time, I want to do video game reviews. So 1/1/2025 will probably be when we are in ad revenue and additional revenue incomes. We will be in that ballpark to go full-time 1/1/25. So if it happens sooner than that, I'll let you know, but that's the trajectory we're on right now. I always judge people by their rogue trader pen and paper characters back in the day. Like, given the chance, did they insist on playing a Tau security officer? Watch that guy. True. So fucking true. Also, yeah, I would be a Scion, like, instantaneously. I'd be a Tempesta Scion, Inquisitorial Stormtrooper, like that. And then I would try to be like an interrogator or something. I would try to climb up the inquisitorial ranks from being a former Scion. I would fucking love that shit. I love Scion so bad, man. They're so fucking cool. Bam Margera's character arc agrees with you. Interesting. If you mean that he's a degenerate alcoholic until life fucks him up so bad that he's going to try to get his shit together. Based. Las Vegas 3 and 4 are really good games. Fantastic. Liberty Prime is based. True. Communists can suck a dick even in the post-apocalypse. Ever play a Fallout game? You should start with New Vegas if you haven't. So here's the thing. I never have. It's one of those things that's always been in the background. Like, I remember the New California Republic Ranger being on a PC Gamer magazine maybe a decade ago, or like maybe a decade and a half ago. And I really liked the aesthetic, but I didn't really vibe with the lore. And it was partially just because of the weird, like, Nuka-Cola being like a huge part of the R&D shit, and the 1950s rolling into the 2010s nuke era where fission power nuke and plants just go everywhere, and so like it's in your fucking toaster and shit, and energy wars between China and the United States. I didn't really like fuck with the lore back in the day, and I still kind of don't. I still think it's kind of like ridiculous and slapsticky, but the truth is, reviewing it, re-seeing it with a new appreciation for the post-apocalypse through the lens of the unification wars of Warhammer 40k, I actually deeply appreciate it. Reason being, I'll explain this to you real quick. Techno-barbarians there's all sorts of techno-barbarians during the unification wars, which happens after a Terminator nuclear apocalypse on Holy Earth. And techno-barbarians are both people who abhor technology and also people who want to harness it. So the Brotherhood of Steel are perfect proto-mechanicus / space marines. The Institute, I forget if that's their name, but the people who are manufacturing synths and who are also experimenting with a forced evolutionary virus, they're a perfect techno-barbarian faction. The militia just makes sense that people would form militias, even though they obviously have an American aesthetic. And then the New California Republic in Warhammer 40k, the northern continent of the Americas is just called America. And so it seems like it would be a dumbed down version of people of the United States trying to reconstitute the states that had fallen apart. And same thing with Caesar's Legion, having a bunch of dumbasses trying to recreate Rome and running at people with fucking power axes. I think that's hilarious. I can't take it seriously, but it's funny and it's cool. So yeah. Astronaut Farmer on Mars based. Oh, they'll woke it up the wazoo, don't you worry. I hope not. I hope it's chill. There needs to be more historical shows. Hopefully the Shogun remake is based. That comment was about Aiden Ross not being cool doing that shit in his 30s. True. Just play 76. Yeah, apparently 76 sucked, and then they updated it and debugged it a whole bunch, but even after they debugged it, it wasn't that great. I don't know. But that's also how I feel about Cyberpunk 2077. I never gave it a shot because the initial reviews were so bad, and now I feel like I've missed the wave. But that's also like a fun thing to imagine, being gang scum in like Necromunda. That's another fun little 40k thing that I might explore. Been a fan of BGS since playing Oblivion in 2008. Very based. They need to remaster Las Vegas. Based. Since are the Institute. Yeah, Institute. FEV is the pre-war American government. Oh yeah, the Enclave. Right. Yeah, but if I remember correct, the Institute is trying to research how to either extend human life or use synths as the next evolution of humanity-ish on the planet. The Institute are in Fallout 4, and they are written badly. They don't have any real goal. The Brotherhood is intriguing. Yeah, I love the Brotherhood of Steel. I think they're fantastic. So what you're saying is Fallout is 40k lore? True. Yep. I am indeed saying that. There's actually a lot of parallels. Cool G says, personally, I'd suggest if you play Fallout, start with 1 and then 2. 2 is great. Skip 3, then go to New Vegas. God bless America. God bless the Enclave. True. Although the thing that I didn't like about the Enclave is they kept backstabbing each other. They just kept killing the shit out of each other. And they kept trying to be dictatorial assholes and like play everybody. And so as a result of playing everybody fucking hated them and then eventually killed them. That's why I like the Brotherhood of Steel, because the Brotherhood of Steel has like a really limited goal. Like, this is because I paid attention to so much of the lore. So the Western Brotherhood of Steel tried to capture that solar plant that has effectively the Hammer of Dawn from Gears of War. And their leader got so obsessed with that the Brotherhood of Steel Western Enclave just did what they could while their leader was being an asshole. And then the Eastern one, they just wanted to fight the super mutants. So then they had the Banished or whatever, the Black and Red Brotherhood of Steel, who broke off in order to go secure technology, and they were based. Then the Banished got reintegrated, and then whoever the young guy who now runs the Brotherhood of Steel on the East Coast, he has the airship, he's got the Velosa, whatever the helicopters are called, he's got the power armor. He's trying to enforce his rule in a new territory. I fucking love it. Yeah, the Outcast, not the Banished. Thank you. But I love Brotherhood of Steel lore. I think it's fantastic. I love it. 76 has a great map, but the online makes me hate it. It's not for me. I'm sad to hear that. Fallout has aliens too. Based? Hey, Counterpoints, you should watch some of the videos about the dark experiments of some of the other vaults. They are grimdark. Yeah. I saw where they had like one dude and 8 chicks, and there was another one where they exposed them all to FEV and all that shit. Yeah, it was fucked up. Kind of awesome, but very fucked up and cool. Speaking of video games, TV series, I'm surprised Halo got a second season. Wasn't impressed, but I was complete shit show. So we'll see. Most canceled TV shows get 2 seasons. So I'll hope that they kind of get their shit together a little bit. So I'll be praying. The action scenes weren't bad, but like, dude, I'm not gonna watch. No offense to Paramount Plus, I'm not watching 10 hours of WB level drama in order to get 10 minutes of action that 80% of it is cool and 20% of it is cringe. I'm not doing that. Like that's just like a bad ratio of engagement, especially when the lore is not connected to the video games in any way. It's fucking, call them something else. It's like somebody was joking. It's like, it's not Master Chief, John 117. It's Johnny Halo. It has nothing to do with the video games, and it has nothing to do with the characters of Master Chief, which, by the way, is a compelling story. Like a virgin super soldier who travels the galaxy and only knows himself as a weapon, who can't, he has barely any humanity left, and yet he still tries to do his best at all times. That's interesting. And then all of the tragedy that he is surrounded with, especially in Halo Infinite, checking out the campaign for that a little bit, seeing all the tragedy that befell the Master Chief, losing all of the people he loved over and over and over and over and over again. It's like, how much can one person take and still remain uncorrupted? I love that about Master Chief. Soda's Halo was better than the show, to be honest. True. I really enjoyed it. Collect technology so humanity doesn't repeat the apocalypse in their mission, but they vary a little bit in every game. It's cool. Yeah, NetX. So watching Brotherhood of Steel lore, I'm pretty sure that the West Coast chapter did that, and then the East Coast chapter did that. But the West Coast chapter, their leader or whatever, got obsessed with the one piece of technology. He got obsessed with the one Hammer of Dawn at that power plant that they couldn't defend easily. That's what the Fallout Sodas animation is about. It's about the New California Republic taking back that solar power station from the Brotherhood of Steel because the Brotherhood of Steel got obsessed with the Hammer of Dawn. Then, which is just, it's a space laser. That's all it is. Then the East Coast chapter, the chapter head got obsessed with hunting super mutants. So the outcasts were like, hey, we're here to secure technology. Why do we just keep going out into the wilds in order to fight super mutants over and over again? And we keep like dying and losing men for a mission that we never signed up for. And so the outcasts go to secure technology while the Brotherhood continues to hunt super mutants. And then eventually they both come back under the same rule with the guy with the vertibirds and the flyer. I fucking love that. I love it. I think it's so based. I would be a Brotherhood of Steel, anti-synth, xenophobic, anti-mutant bigot so fast. I fucking love it. Mr. House looks just like the owner of Bigelow Aerospace. Interesting. I remember the previous TV show was really good. The one with the school kids trained as grunts or something. Came out in like 2010s or something. Kind of. Forward Unto Dawn or whatever. But like, I don't give a shit about that. I don't give a shit about fucking teenagers learning to be soldiers. I'm here to watch. You know what is good? You know what is good is the Neil Blomkamp short. It's like 10 minutes long, and I forget what it's called, but it's literally real life action ODSTs and Marines going up against brutes, and I don't think there's any elites, but they go up against brutes, they go up against jackals, they go up against, I don't know if there's any grunts. It was so fucking good. Like if you haven't seen that, then you need to type in, go to YouTube, open up a new window. We're probably about to wrap up. Go to YouTube and type in Halo something fall and Halo Landfall, or do like Halo live action, and it'll pop up. Should have like 3 or 4 million views. Vault 69 was 1 male and 999 females. Vault 68 was 1 female, 999 males. Jesus Christ. That's not good. I just want a Dread series with Carl Urban. Is that too much to ask? It is, because Carl Urban's busy with the boys, but he was the best Dread. Yeah, Halo, Aliens, but hey, so Nedak, you say it's literally not Halo, it just says Halo, Aliens, and Weapons. I agree with you, but the props people and the armor people did a great fucking job. They really did. So I don't begrudge the props or armor people at all. As a matter of fact, aesthetically, the show looks good in a lot of scenes. It's literally just the plot and the story that suck ass. You should talk to What If Alt Hiss sometime. I think you guys could have an interesting combo. I mean, I'll reach out. What's kind of going on is, you know, when I had 20K followers on Twitter, a lot of people would be my mutuals by default because they're like, oh, if he has 20K followers and whatever, and then they'll follow him. And then they would like bump into my content haphazardly, and then they would kind of DM me or whatever. But now that I'm back down to 2K followers at CounterConnor, by the way, counter common spelling CONOR, people... They even though the YouTube's doing good, you know, we get 500,000 views monthly. Sometimes we'll break 1 million. We're at, you know, almost 60,000 subs. We'll probably break 100,000 by the end of 2024. People are a little bit more judgy. They're flexing their clout elbows a little bit. So if you know somebody who knows somebody, I'll be happy to talk to anybody. Basically, apparently I stopped watching before that. Yeah. I like the last 20 minutes of Forward Unto Dawn where they ran away from the Covenant. True. Oh yeah, he was making a whole Halo movie, but it fell through and became District 9. District 9 was so fucking based. Like, again, like most of it was social commentary and exposition, but the action scenes in District 9 were phenomenal. Yeah. Okay. I'm caught up on chat on both sides. If you do have donos, or if you're a YouTube member or a Patreon, do all the money things so eventually we can go full time, and also I can spend your money on products as we go forward. I'm doing some cool things, like I'm gonna buy the materials in order to make a real life functional chainsword and try to make it 40K aesthetically. I'm going to buy a semi-automatic shotgun and try to make it a real life bolter. I found one that's substantively cheaper than the Origin 12. So we're going to do that and try to turn that into content. Going to do some, I have a talented 3D manufacturer that's going to help me design some miniatures and help me design some Tempestus Scion / Kazurkin cosplay armor. So we can do some range days with that stuff. Hopefully turn that into viral content. And then, you know, ad revenue always helps. So if you're bored and you got nothing better to do, literally just open up my YouTube videos, run them in the background, mute them if you've already watched them, or if you're not interested, and just fucking watch them in the background, because it helps out with the algorithm when you have all the way through watch through. So yeah. Hey, Counterpoints, glad I could catch your stream. And concerning Lolly, bad faith people like to compare it to furry, and us furry are nowhere near as degenerate as Lolly watchers. Red Phazon. I did talk a little bit of shit about the furry people, but I will have you know that I do not, I agree with you that Lolly is infinitely more degenerate, so appreciate you. Take care, Connor and chat. See ya. All right, have a good night. Happy holidays. Once I get my comp sci degree, I got you. Thank you, Jonah Boy. I appreciate you. Christian Blair, always good to see you. Cheese Poo, thank you. Oh, excellent. Jonah Boy, congratulations on the final. All right. Parasocial love to you and yours. Have a fantastic night. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Have a great one. Bye for now.